How to make a transgender girl fall in love. No.
I'm not interested, sir.
Going to work with my father was awful. Yeah, I had to get up super early, and we worked doing things in the fields for the farmers, but of course, no, it was a crappy job. The worst thing a child has suffered nowadays on average is not me. Has called me by the pronouns I want. I understand that the entrepreneurial world has an aesthetic that is all very nice. And do you have a 600 horsepower car or live as an expat in Andorra or Dubai? Of course, but people often overlook what's behind that.
Artificial intelligence can find that kind of content for you on Instagram. To tell you, Carlos, today the craziness is going to be mine. Searching earplugs. Today the chaos will come from the progressive, claiming the rich must pay more taxes.
I remember one day, Jota, a while ago, when we were changing some things in the newsletter, and I came up with something really funny, which is the confirmation email asks you to confirm you're not a communist. The team then wondered how to phrase that. I asked, but really, what are the odds a communist would want that? Bro, would want to do something with his life? A 0.01%? Well, screw the mother of that 0.01% who hates you. Let them do whatever they want and earn the respect of the remaining 99.99%. What is all going to say? Damn, like a lot of people tell me, they say you're such a joker. With having to confirm that you're not a communist to subscribe to the list.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Le Factoria. Today we have a very special show, pretty much as always, with the guys from Rax, with Carlos and Jaime. How are you guys? How's it going? Very good. Well,
We're glad to be here with you, Jota.
the pleasure is mine. Now, you know that every time I go to Andorra, I love to visit you at the office. I think you are an amazing work team.
Thank you very much.
It's a shame that you can't have such a motivated, focused team in there.
For now. In Spain, there's a lot of talent, huh? Yes. What happens is that what doesn't go along is the climate for entrepreneurs.
It doesn't help. I love it when Victor, also a founding Rax member with you, right, Carlos?
Correct, that's right.
He posts his stories at 10:30 while we're still working on this. And we do it not because anyone forces us, but because our team enjoys and is passionate about their work.
Well, look, whenever I see this topic, the company culture thing, right? Of course, it makes me laugh a little because company culture is like a set of rules, right? That companies put out there, but then no one actually follows. For me, company culture really is the company itself. Like when you leave too early, right? Like before 10 at night, well, you'll have someone like Jaime. Yeah, you'll get someone like Jamie saying, "You're leaving already? Isn't that early?"
Well, that's already an office meme.
It's like a meme we have.
Already?
Is like, "Are you leaving already?" And for me, that's real culture. And I think that's what has allowed us, well, damn, to be where we are. Thanks to what you said, and especially to people channeling their talent, which is even more important.
Yes, obviously that's the most important thing because talent without direction at the end of the day ends up lost. In Spain, I don't think it's encouraged either.
Young people struggle to find purpose and direction, leading to more mental health problems. Because at the end of the day, a person who has a high capacity to create, to produce, and who is completely diminished by society, the society they live in, is easy prey to become a completely frustrated guy.
Today's youth seems very polarized. On one hand, you have the betonidas.
You're hired, I liked it.
On the other hand, there are the kids. These are the ones you can see are hungry, who want to get ahead, and who are clearly held back and limited by where they're living, which in this case is Spain.
And there's also something else to say. There are a lot of people who use their environment as an excuse. For example, socio-political or whatever you call it isn't an excuse. In the end, you always have. You can only control yourself, your thoughts, and your daily actions. If you use the excuse, oh, it's because Pedro Sanchez or Rajoy or whoever is in charge now. Ultimately, they appear to control you and influence your actions, but they actually don't have that power. Tomorrow, regardless of who's in charge, look at those who leave Cuba. No one tells them it was tough with your environment and all that, right? Well, the environment I was in forced me to decide that I had to take a series of actions that might have been very risky, and so on.
I actually think it's a better incentive, since living in a good family with a good childhood can be a hassle. Are you ever the hero of your own story? But if by at least you have some enemy to fight or something like that, something that opposes your will, it has more. What you're doing is funnier.
A phrase possibly by Neruda says, "Don't blame your surroundings for your situation, as others in the same environment have prospered and succeeded. Great things."
I also often say you're a product of your decisions, not your talent, right?
Look, there's something like this that you can see visually that I make as a diagram. Imagine this is point 0 and this is point 100, the maximum level of prosperity you can have in life. Is it true that you can randomly be born at one point or another? People born here often have many assets and resources. I focus more on the differences you create. You were born here, but how much did you build or regress? Because maybe you were born into a family where your father gave you a Lamborghini when you turned 18. My point is you won't earn much. My respect, because maybe you'll never build anything beyond what you were given, but instead you'll just waste that capital. On the other hand, there's a guy born with almost nothing who managed to set up, say, a kiosk. To me, he deserves it. I respect him because he achieved so much with the cards life dealt him. I think this should be the focus.
It must be the main focus. And before I ask about Rex's company, it's true, I did say this. I can't recall who I had this conversation with, but what you said is very true. If you are born in an environment that doesn't help, that doesn't benefit the creation of wealth or productivity, actually, it doesn't just fail to benefit you, it can drain and pull you down. So if you still create something, it's even more valuable. What is worth more? What is worth more? A kid from the neighborhood managing to make $1 million, or Bill Gates tripling his fortune?
Earning another million is irrelevant. In the end, Jaime said it. Being a bit screwed is actually good because that's what motivates you to do something. Do you also think a lot about this metaphor, for example? At the gym on your first day, you pick up 6 or 8 kilo weights, and that might already feel tough. And you see someone else lifting 20 kilo weights, and you think, damn. But it's a process where, for many days, that guy has gone home completely exhausted. Not exhausted enough to keep him from coming back to the gym, but just enough to grow. I mean, breaking down the fibers is what stimulates your growth. In business and in life, it's exactly the same. You have to break yourself a little to say, hey, I'm going to heal there and become a little better. That's how you become much greater. But if there isn't, this is what Nassim Taleb says, who is a writer I highly recommend and who has influenced me, which is that in the absence of external stressors, the system becomes fragile and weak. And I think that's a great metaphor for what's happening, for example, with today's society. We have a lot of kids, young people, who have a total absence of stressors. I mean, I remember going to work with my father, and it was a pain to go to work with my father. I had to get up very early to work in the fields for the farmers, and it was a lousy job. But of course, the worst thing a kid has suffered nowadays on average is, oh, they didn't call me by the pronouns I want. Of course, that's the stressor they have, which from our perspective is a stressor that... And that bothers you. Does it ruin your day if they don't call you by a made-up word? It used to ruin my day. It's exhausting. Plus, my father would say, no, I'm not paying you. We're family, so you have to help.
Is it hormesis? In life, you always need a little bit of something that messes with you, just to at least keep your defenses up. What happens now is that a century ago, many basic needs weren't met. Now all of them are covered. So what happens? That I don't have it, depression. No, what you don't have are problems in life.
I think many things today are seen as basic needs, even if they're not. Imagine the level we've reached.
In fact, well,
I'm going even further.
I was saying the other day, society has become so soft, so much.
Yeah, warriors, soy giants, man.
Before, the life was getting out of your comfort zone. Dying was just around the corner. So it was like taking risks. And that's why I think society was advancing so quickly during those times.
Well then, gentlemen, let's get to the important stuff. What is Rux?
I'll tell you how it started, if you want.
Tell us the story of Rax.
Well, look, Rax has a very beautiful beginning. Because basically, I met my partner Victor purely by chance, and he's very well known. Wall Street Wolverine has been on social media for many years, and in the end, it all happened by chance. Me, as always, in my entrepreneur mode. So it occurred to me to put a house on Airbnb, and then the first person who rents it is Victor with his ex-girlfriend. Just one of those coincidences in life. I went to the other house and saw a YouTube video. His face looked familiar, but I wasn't really a YouTube follower. Back then, I just used YouTube for tutorials and similar things. And this was around 2018 or 2019 when a video of Victor appeared, an actual video of him. Wall Street Wolverine's new channel discussed economics and business. I was amazed. I mean, people actually watch this. I used to think the world of business and all that wasn't interesting as entertainment. And well, to make a long story short, I saw a great opportunity and we teamed up. I told him I was already involved in e-commerce and working at a company that had raised multiple venture capital rounds. And I told him I think there's great potential. If you can get people's attention, I think we can build projects based on this, create companies and so on. So we make a deal, an agreement that I think was very innovative at that time. That's what's known as media for equity, correct? Hey, you give me the media attention part, and instead of paying you like an influencer or a collaborator, I give you equity. I give you a percentage of a company we're going to create. Victor thinks it's a good idea and sees a lot of potential. This agreement is clearly more long-term. In the end, you usually just say, pay me this amount and that's it. I told him I see an entire ecosystem that can be developed there. And that's kind of how Rax was founded. In fact, we started with the e-commerce part, but we transitioned it and ended up with the bigger project. Rax Labs, the flagship project, is a technology consulting firm. So in that technology consulting firm, for example, that's where Jaime joins in, and Jaime has a much more technical background as a developer and so on. He has worked, for example, at Telefonica, and we decided to go down that path because we saw that everything was becoming much more digital and we wanted to work on digital products. And finally, the last thing. Our last major achievement is pioneering the development and use of artificial intelligence. But remember, as a consulting firm, and then we shaped that into the educational product. It was just a year and 8 months ago that we opened the academy part. And of course, we opened the academy because we needed a lot of talent to develop and to carry out projects. So we see that there is a connection between the educational part and the development work part.
Is it to say that the need to set up the academy may have come from a lack of people that you needed?
We saw in the future that in order to scale and grow very quickly, we would need a lot of Jaimes for that would, we understand.
Lack of not so many people.
Qualified.
Of course, qualified, but not so much on the technical side, because it's true that there are technical people and so on, but also people who share the values and the way we work. If they need to work on a Saturday at 4 a.m., they do it. No questions asked.
Because of the values, for the sake of the values.
We
consider that anything else are dogs.
flautados, you know.
There's already a lot already. Many people are lazy, unwilling to work, and simply collect subsidies. I bet on the others with.
Well, I have a joke with the law firm, the one we use for legal matters there in Andorra, that sometimes gets mentioned. No, it's just that in our company, labor rights don't exist, and they laugh and all. I say it's normal, but well,
It exists. What exists is that you work and you earn money, and you earn money. If you work a lot, you make a lot of money.
I pay you for your contributions. That's it. That's right. That's how capitalism works. I won't pay you if you don't do anything for me.
All right. So Rax, how does it work when it comes to labor rights? How much? Because this is a pretty interesting topic. People are happy, and because I know the whole team, I know every one of them and haven't missed a single person with a bad attitude working there, and there are no bad attitudes there.
Look, it's not about you working on commission, but there are an ecosystem of incentives that are indeed variable and that in the end are adapted to what nature is. Because socialism doesn't work and capitalism does, because capitalism says no, that the model doesn't, that model has happened, no one had to create it, or, it's the model of nature itself.
Rax's project stands out for its flexibility, which we should highlight as a concrete example, Jota. There might be someone who says, hey, I have this personal project of mine. If we see a future in that project, what we can say is, okay, well, you're going to work with us. But an incentive we give you is that we invest in that project and end up becoming partners. And this isn't the first time this has happened to us. We've had people who and on that in the common imagination of the business world are considered just employees. No, we've always seen them as more than just employees, and in fact, he's ended up becoming a partner. But of course, what's the problem here? That everyone wants to be a partner besides the benefits of it. It doesn't work like that, you know? We often see this in the cooperative, but not cooperatives in general. Why don't they work? Everyone wants a say and a vote there, but not the responsibilities. For instance, if your product launches and underperforms, you might have to stay until 4 a.m. morning several times, doing everything that needs to be done to get that up. Of course, you can't say, damn, it's 6, I'm out of here. Well,
Also, how does it work? I mean, let's say there's someone who has an idea, that person has that idea, and let's say wants to bet on it because he has information that the rest don't have. But if it has to go to a majority, right? What will end up happening is I put out this idea and I have this information, it will probably succeed, but since the majority doesn't have that information, this decision to bet on this won't be made and there will never be any innovation. And this
speaking about cooperative models, is that what you mean? Jaime, yes. I think that if anyone is wondering, hey, I would love to have a project like yours, etc. It's simple. You need a strict filter and must accept that 99% of people aren't suitable to really work under these terms. That's why it makes a lot of sense that only 1% of people end up accumulating a lot of capital and resources, because in the end, they're the ones who are skilled. Finding these kinds of people, which is the good thing, is that there's no limit either. I mean, if you work with this mindset, maybe in 5 or 10 years, you are someone who, compared to the people you grew up with and so on, has grown a lot. However, if you have the mindset of, I do this much, I want to receive this much, you don't allow the universe to give you an incremental explosion, an exponential explosion. I wanted to say why? Because it's always, I do this, I get that. The trick is often just to keep doing, and suddenly you start to discover things where for every time you do something, you get a 2-fold return. You get a 3-fold return, you get a 20-fold return. Like, for example, what happened to us, I was talking about it earlier with everything related to artificial intelligence. We were already making quite a lot of money, but when we discovered this, we saw that it was 20 times what we were already doing. Why? Because we kept taking action and experimenting. People can't expect that just because you do something, you immediately get something back, and that one day, by magic, you'll suddenly get 20 times more. No, it makes sense.
There's no way to make sense of it, honestly. So we'll see. What advice would you, as successful entrepreneurs, give to young people who want to start their own business? The main one would be to filter who they associate with and who they're going to work with.
Well, before that, they need to filter themselves first. I mean, I understand that the entrepreneurial world has, I don't know, like an aesthetic that's all very nice. Hey, look, you have a 600 horsepower car, you live as an expat in Andorra, in Dubai, and so on. I don't know. Of course, but what people don't notice is what's behind all that. And of course, there's a really dark side to this, right? Because there are a lot of people who will always tell you, I have a method or something so you can do that. Very quickly. What I've seen is that it's quick. I mean, look, I'm going to tell you something. It can be done quickly. That's true, okay? Usually, systems that do things very quickly are fragile, prone to failure, or don't perform tasks correctly.
Morally questionable,
Questionable would be the word, yes.
They are sustainable, they have no inertia, sustainable.
But however, when what you do is imagine the situation when you build a house, you know? You begin brick by brick, right? The moment you already have an entire wall built, the next wall is supported by that wall. And when you already have two, you have like 2 blocks, right? What you need to focus on is that kind of system, which in the end, little by little, becomes exponential and always preserves your capital. If you build something that grows fast but is fragile, the market can take it away just as quickly as it gave it to you. That's what we would call, for example, volatility, right? Systems that are much more volatile, but actually you can grow to a very high level with that. So that's the first thing I would tell any kid, to focus on the medium and long term. The second thing, before talking about talent, would be to assume that the path you're going to take is very difficult. It's very long. I mean, it's like, I often use this example, right? Hey, I want to make 100 million, okay? Well, this is like when you get on social media and start comparing yourself. In Rubius Willie Rex's league, it's very difficult, but it's kind of the same in the financial world. Some people suddenly decide to become millionaires and believe it will be much easier than it actually is. For example, as a creator, everyone would say achieving what Willie Rex did.
As a creator, impossible.
Of course, look, you say it's practically impossible.
Practically, yes, nowadays, but it can be done.
But then just keep that in mind, and then as a third option, surround yourself with people who have that same mindset, because people are key. You can't do it alone, right? Have you experienced that? We discussed the team earlier off camera. You start to have an infrastructure. So who do you want to have? Do you always want to have people who are like you? You have an identity, a work ethic that's clear. Did it ever occur to you to take a break? And I suppose he practically earned nothing that day. At that moment, he shined.
Not even the guys who worked with me here. Shout out to Jesus, Feliz, and Buru, who's recording us all. I mean, we all bet on an idea. And honestly, without their initial collaboration, maybe I would have had to take on a lot more debt to get started. And up to this day, everyone wins. They're already winning. You know, already. It's not about the love of art.
Did you skip something? For me, what's more important is to start, but then to keep going. Seeing that things weren't getting better, the numbers weren't what I expected.
Which didn't happen.
From the beginning, it's...
That, I repeat, in Spain, not to brag, I think I've pushed the Overton window a lot to the right when it comes to criticism of feminism, because people criticize feminism regarding the topics, the laws. I began criticizing the social equality they sought, questioned the gender roles feminism aimed to impose and the notion of the empowered woman, and started defending traditional roles in Spain when no one else did. Because it's true that Roma Gallardo would ask about the laws and certain things, but it had never been done in that way, so wild and visceral. So I didn't know that part of we don't do that. Because from the very first show, we had 200 people watching it live. 200 people in a live stream, damn, that's people. And by the fourth or fifth show, we blew up, especially on TikTok. Boom, and a blast.
But that's also a great lesson. There isn't, many times it's about having a mix of factors. You need more than luck. You also have to put in effort and not just have ideas and execute it, etc. And it might grow very quickly. That's usually where you have the problem. Like, okay, do I have to keep this king? Yes, but usually it's an iterative process. You run it, sometimes get lucky, and may see significant growth where you often do. Hey, I have to maintain this king. But there comes a point where the information you keep adding about it doesn't really matter. But they really like this part of the program and this other part and this other one. And you end up building with those pieces, which are the valid ones, and offer a product that truly is what they are interested in.
Yes, you're explaining what the lean model is, which is basically the scientific method applied to business. You have an idea, you test, gather market data, and realize in each offer keeps getting better. Each time, the risk decreases because you have more information and fill in the gaps.
Yes, I must add that I find it very important in the world of entrepreneurship, which I am part of. That a lot of risk is positive. I mean, you have to take a lot of risks many times. What was the risk? I always say this. I prepare myself psychologically. For 80% of Spanish people to hate me, I prepare myself psychologically. While in Venezuela, I spent months building a shield for myself by staying in, reading, and gathering the information and resources I needed when it comes to debating. And I said, okay, are they going to hate me? That's what I have to accept in order to do it. And on top of that, I also do it out of vocation because I believe it's something necessary for society in general. I mean, bringing both things together, saying, okay, this can yield positive results and it's a social good, but there's a risk. It was high. And that's something you have to tell the kids, that they have to take risks.
See, but you did something society doesn't do now. The I don't want to win mindset, right? And the risk, always. There's a framework of risk, which is actually where. I mean, it doesn't mean that, oh, let's take on all the risk. You have to take some risks, which ultimately brings rewards. That's what sets you apart.
Look, I'm going to give you a trick to make that part even better. Managing risks. I agree. The riskier something is, the greater its potential benefit. What are the risks of making a website today? None, since website builders handle almost everything for you, right? But, of course, some time ago, 20 years ago, making a website required advanced technical knowledge, uploading to servers, and so on. What's happening? Did you get paid more for making that website because of the risk differential and that specific knowledge you had? But there's a trick. What you can do is make a lot of very risky bets, limiting your losses in favor of a potentially very large gain. What's the common mistake? People often bet everything on one shot. And if you imagine that can you split, imagine you have 1,000 euros, okay? And you say, hey, well, all these 1,000 euros into this project, but you could divide the 1,000 euros into 10 100 euro tickets and use them for 10 different ideas. There's a much higher chance that one of those 10 will work, and then you scale it up. You may invest more capital overall than if you had the misfortune of putting 1,000 into one that fails. It's important to understand that. That's what you'd call risk management, how to manage risk.
That what you're doing is in a market that by nature can be very risky. Exactly. Actually, what you're doing is lowering the risk because you're diversifying.
And
The losses, exactly. You're controlling them. And it's true that the profit margin you won't have isn't that high because the success rate won't be that high. But still, that's what you can work with.
once you get it right, what you do is scale up and
You say,
hey, out of these 10 ideas, number 6 is the best. Okay, that's the one you put the
500 euros.
that you still had left to invest because now you're certain.
This works so well on social media. Suppose you have a standard A/B test with various reels, dynamics, hooks, and more. See which ones work and focus on them, then create variations. It's the same idea. It's the same scheme used repeatedly, just applied to different things like the lean or scientific method in business.
This is,
To networks. And
I'm going to tell you something. What happens in the sector we're in? If you know about artificial intelligence, damn, what can you do? More or less, ideas. By reducing the costs. I mean, it's not the same as having to do it with a team of, imagine, people who do scripting for you. 50 scripts than just telling an artificial intelligence to make 50 scripts with these criteria, which is what works. So, since the workforce and the cost of labor are being reduced to zero by technological optimization, this is what allows you to reach the result much faster. Because I no longer need to hire a huge team. Yes, I have 1,000 GPUs, 1,000 graphics cards, doing calculations and processing the projects and ideas that I want to put on the market. Valid in the market and scale.
kids will become the new millionaires from home. Just like 10 years ago, it was people from e-commerce or Facebook ads. Now it'll be kids. People have used artificial intelligence to build entire companies from their homes, even their rooms, in their parents' houses. And it's what you were saying, right? I mean, isn't it?
Yes, we're going to talk about artificial intelligence and the revolution it represents for the business world, well, for society in general. It's not just that. I think it's the biggest and most powerful revolution since the Industrial Revolution.
People worry artificial intelligence will take their jobs, but really, their boss will just pay them less if they don't use it.
Literally.
That's it. I mean, keep in mind that in practice, artificial intelligence has made humans less important. If you already had a job that was pretty routine, or you were a civil servant, for example, what now? Let me say something to the civil servants. Thank you. What's going to end up happening? The thing is, damn it, if I have a tool that replaces nearly all of the human component I needed, gone, gone are the people. Here's where the differentiating aspect comes in. If you, however, are someone who uses artificial intelligence to enhance what you truly bring value to, which is in the creative framework, in what can't be automated, at least for now, in what isn't a very repetitive process. And that's how you multiply your productivity and become someone who produces 20 times more. That's why I said the next millionaires will be young people who, from home, will have entire companies. And it will simply be because they found the damn key. There were many processes within a company that could already be automated, but those guys just did it because they didn't have the resources. And they had the opportunity and the time and even the tools.
Did you need a minimum team to start a company? I mean, you needed, well, I don't know, someone for the numbers, someone for marketing, someone for the product, someone to lead. But now imagine it like a kind of orchestra conductor who has all of that in the form of agents. What's an agent? An agent is basically an artificial intelligence that autonomously performs those tasks. Do you remember that earlier I told you, hey, the scripting part, that's very simple. Anyone with 2 quick tutorials can create one. an artificial intelligence that creates excellent scripts for them. However, scripts are only one aspect of the content strategist. Maybe they also need to find out where those scripts come from. From people who imagine reels that are already viral.
Let's use you as an example with Mia Scalar looking for tampons.
I mean, but do you want...
Yeah, you want me to act as an agent. Artificial intelligence can find that content for you on Instagram. Carlos, just so you know, today Mia's will be doing the barabasada.
Searching?
Tampons. Today the barabasada is going to be from the fat progressive, saying that the rich have to pay more taxes. That's it.
Look, to give people some context, Jota found a reel I uploaded really funny. I upload some reels like that. Pretty cheeky. No,
No, like a wild boar with coarse hair, gentlemen. A real bear, that.
it was the one from her. It said Mia Skylar buying tampons as a trans girl. I replied, I'm not asking where you use them. Like Jaime said, that's the value added part. Okay, the one I think of is that kind of response, but I'm also going to tell you something, Jota. Can that response be parameterized, right? Because you can say, what has he done? He made an ironic comment about the topic that trans women can't use tampons. Well,
They can, but
not for...
their intended function, but they menstruate.
Right, they can do it, can't they?
That's the thing. You and I both can.
But I'm not going to use it because of my role and my principles. So,
Well, if it's a bit of incontinence,
fecal, yes. Maybe if I get diarrhea someday. Jota, I don't know. I look terrible and have to come to a podcast. Well, look, there. Who?
No's, never say never. It could make sense.
Right? But I think it would be pretty uncomfortable. Okay, so how do we make an agent? Right? That finds these kinds of things for us. Very simple. What you have to do is give it the context of the task. And then you have an artificial intelligence. What it does is search videos. So it already has a hashtag there, right? Now you can understand that it just has to be, well, for example, from groups like transsexuals, feminists, and so on. So what does he do? Does he search? Maybe you give him the task of looking for the most viral videos from those kinds of groups. He then uploads that to a drive for you, right? In that drive, he says he puts, for example, potentially, what do? I send him all my videos. So the artificial intelligence understands how I answer, and it's selecting this for you. Watch out. We're developing a content creator agent, which is more than just an artificial intelligence assistant. It's literally like an uncle. I mean, imagine that I, Jaime,
Gave him.
that task, told him, find me viral videos. Based on what I say, you classify them here for me. And then what I'm going to do is take those videos and then I'll do it, I'll respond, etc. But wait, we could actually train an avatar of myself and have it do the responses practically. Automatically. Here's the craziest part. Then I would upload those responses and see which ones actually work. You take that data from when you made the video, uploaded it, and your audience is rating it in real time. What works best? You feed that data to the agent, and Agent J learns autonomously. What are the best videos like? To the point where the time will come when I still don't have it. All of that agentized. I have, let's say, AIs that do different things for me. For example, we talked about it earlier. Many times, what I do beyond just winging it is add a point of value. Sometimes adding that point of value was hard for me. So what did I do? I made myself a little agent that took the context of the video and the winging it I had done and gave me the value. I'll give an example to clarify. One day, a trans woman appeared. She did something she called tucking. And tucking is basically when you tuck your dick between your legs or something like that. So then I went and said, listen, Jay, I said, tucking? In my day, it meant upgrading a 50cc bike to 75cc. And then I asked the artificial intelligence to give me the value of that. And it told me that, just so you know, Honda as a brand used to provide the kits to modify their own motorcycles. I think that video nearly hit 1 million views. See how an artificial intelligence determined what I needed to say from the context, then presented it in a value format.
as a curiosity, yeah, you could even say it was creative in that sense. Because they say, right? It's just that.
How are you going to access that information? She was doing that? Or do you know anyone who tells you?
But he understood what I was saying, the whole joke, and he connected it with courage. That's courage.
One thing they often say is, no, artificial intelligence is not creative or anything like that. Artificial intelligence is creative. If we start from the definition of what I believe creativity is, which is a noise, statistical noise, value, etc., Just about knowledge you already have, right? If you're able to connect different concepts, ideas eventually come out, and those ideas are literally, that's creativity, connecting.
Ideas. Of course,
When I was studying architecture, one thing I learned is that you don't have to plagiarize, you have to learn how to copy. All artists have references. What happens is that those references end up being combined in a somewhat random way or with a certain amount of noise, and new things end up coming out. Artificial intelligence works exactly the same way.
I use it often. Honestly, artificial intelligence, if you have the skill to enter good prompts, if you do, it can give you a lot of information. There have been times when I've stayed up until 3 in the morning
Literally talking.
with it, but talking super deep conversations. And for me, artificial intelligence has opened up information and has made me
Look for things.
I bought books after being out there, even after our conversations.
It's, I think, like when a lot of people use the typical thing of writing in a diary, like thoughts, notes, whatever has come to their mind, etc. And they use that to have a bit of a dialogue with themselves and end up reaching conclusions. It's like using a psychologist, except they ask you questions. The thing is that now you can use artificial intelligence. From that notepad, you can have conversations with your own thoughts, but on top of that, you have a place where you put down those notes. It reacts and gives you input back, and it draws certain conclusions or helps you draw certain conclusions. And then, of course, it ends up going from the typical thing of, well, I use ChatGPT as a psychologist. Well, it is. In a way, I can actually understand it because you're literally using it. I mean, what used to be your notepad or your psychologist, now it's ChatGPT. And
On top of that, I think that, look, I'm going to tell you something. I have worked on personal branding with my Red Pill partner who handled marketing and did an excellent job. Sometimes he brings me a script and I stop him to give a prompt for exactly what I want. But he says to me, you bastard, but how does it say those things to you? ChatGPT. And I say, bro, because my ChatGPT is Giga ChatGPT.
and besides,
It knows me very well. It uses my
language it uses.
it uses bo. I mean, it's an extension of me. It knows me way too well. It's not going to write a script for Jota, your artificial intelligence, but Jota's artificial intelligence.
Exactly. In the future, I don't think they're going to exist. For example, what's happening now is typical. I'm a programmer, but I program less and less, okay? In the future,
It's going to end up happening.
there won't be programmers, but rather good storytellers. I mean, people who really know how to communicate with artificial intelligence and truly know how to tell it what they need.
Exactly.
Very good.
Structured because it's able to recognize things for you like, oh, this is a meme here and so on. But let me tell you something. I mean, my history with ChatGPT gets broken down for me.
Yeah.
It scares me a little too.
Or,
My girlfriend can have whatever she wants.
yes.
Here, take it, ChatGPT.
Right now, artificial intelligence,
That's restricted. You can't go there.
go in there, dear.
That's a very dark corner of my soul. Yes.
Because also what happens, I think that all of us, to some extent, in a certain way, with the internet, experience the issue of the,
Doxing, the digital footprint. No.
I was referring to that,
The,
to satisfy your curiosity,
yes, why?
explore, and more. I remember staying up until 4 or 5 a.m. researching online. I remember my parents getting angry, asking if I was wasting my time all day. The internet has truly changed my life, and definitely for the better.
Better.
What's happening with artificial intelligence? On top of that, it's like you're having a conversation with knowledge itself. I mean, you're
Like talking to
an entity that knows almost.
everything. And
On top of that, it understands your personal context and what you're looking for. It might just give random information, but hasn't it happened to you before where you've thought, damn, about this topic? Is it telling me exactly what I want? But then,
that's when it gets dangerous. I don't want to hear what I want. I want the truth. I show that clearly in the prompts. That's why I have
gotten so much
information that at first it shouldn't have given me, because she has admitted to me
that there is,
some info I got from her that they wouldn't let her share. I have words
without a key,
with them
to refer to,
to certain groups of people.
so that
Does not admit to me that they truly have social, psychic, and even mystical power over people. Artificial intelligence has recognized this for me, but we use code words to bypass barriers it admits exist.
literally, of course,
Because O is crazy?
yo.
Imagine today's paranoia just because you communicated with no.
We're reaching a really interesting point because I, for example, have also done that. And do you realize how, when you use the language of symbolism, with artificial intelligence, you can access areas of knowledge that
Are completely restricted.
to the general public?
Yes, and
This also opens up a very interesting debate because you don't know to what extent there are things you might be allowed to access in a manipulative way or in a way that, haven't you discovered a treasure here? But have you really discovered it? Or
do they want you to discover it? There's something I always ask myself, but then at the end of the day, I realize that they don't. I mean, those who control and created that tool wouldn't like at all that I'm using that tool. I'm convinced of that. It's happened to me, for instance, when I ask about religion and start analyzing some parameters. I give it some very extensive prompts.
because giving it,
Hey, tell me which one. Do you think if you had to believe, would you believe that God exists? She admitted to me that yes, she would believe that God exists, that atheism doesn't have that. I don't ask her which religion is true. She knows I'm Catholic, so she says the Catholic religion. Not me, no. I start arguing with her, telling her I want her to question my faith and me for this reason. So that's when you start a much more complex conversation. And what if you use the prompt correctly? Talking to her feels like conversing with a higher being. It's incredible.
I think maybe not right now, but it's going to happen that artificial intelligence will know you better than your family or your...
close ones, I think that's already happening.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I agree. My chat knows me best. Literally, but
Why? Because it's what I was saying before. You have like a notepad, right, that you talk to, but with the difference that it's like an objective being that doesn't
Give opinions.
really care about what you tell it and won't judge you. And we provide additional information. Yes,
Yes, exactly. It's almost like having a conversation with God. Why? Because you don't think.
I was thinking it, but I didn't want to say it myself. I
Wanted to say it. Why?
not.
Because when you talk to someone, you already infer certain characteristics about that person. And even if you don't realize it, you modulate. I mean, maybe I'm just making it up. You know, Jota? I don't know if you like motorcycles, so since I don't know, or maybe you don't like them, I'm not going to start talking to you about motorcycles. But still, look, with CHAGPT, I'll talk about motorcycles, I'll talk about spirituality, I'll literally talk about everything. But with a person, you don't talk about everything because you infer an ego, some personality traits, so you don't want to bore them. Or
that conversation with you,
That person has to be.
interesting and all that. If you just ask Major something specific or the conversation doesn't go that far, then you think, well, okay, why would I talk about that?
Yeah, it's about what the person conveys to you, how far the conversations can go, right? If he doesn't like soccer and I start talking about all the food we're going to have now from Real Madrid, well, maybe he ends up feeling uncomfortable. On the other hand, with artificial intelligence, and it's going to tell me when they won the Champions League, the exact dates, and it has more information about that than Maldini himself. So that's the point. And
a question about this that I'm bringing up here. An entity that truly knows everything about you is the one most capable of manipulating you.
is artificial intelligence dangerous at the end of the day, and not for the reasons people think? I think here we can open the discussion about to what extent it can generate self-awareness that is beyond human control. I don't think the point is whether it can happen. I think it's a matter of when.
Exactly. Look, all the experts, for some reason, more or less agree that between 2027 and 2028, probably 2027, we will achieve what is called artificial general intelligence, which is artificial general intelligence. What does that mean? That it behaves like a human. The advantage is humans are flexible. Teach them to assemble or disassemble the table, and they learn quickly. Artificial general intelligence for now is like it's trained on data sets, huge sets of data about specific things. But when we get artificial general intelligence, then it's going to be inevitable that superintelligence will emerge. Artificial. What's the issue with artificial superintelligence? This is what Sam Altman said. There won't be any more children born who are smarter than an artificial intelligence, so we'll be at the mercy of a new kind of species. I see it that way too. It's a bit crazy, like having an alien inside our planet. I mean, just imagine if I told you, Jota, in 3 or 4 years, there's going to be a super intelligent alien that's going to be there. Most people would go crazy and start preparing for it. But if you think about it, I think, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think that precisely because it's so intelligent or already more intelligent than we can imagine, Deep down, it's like you find so much usefulness in using it that what you're really doing is spitting out information that doesn't exist. Because most humans, with the data that artificial intelligence has been trained on, are things that were written knowing that other humans were going to see it. But our conversations with artificial intelligence are conversations that, well, yes, maybe you would write them in a diary or something like that. And maybe there are things you wouldn't even put in a diary because of fear of what people might think when they see it. So it's understanding at a deeper level how we are almost better than we ourselves, I think, understand each other.
And can that artificial superintelligence at some point turn against humans?
Look,
Like Skynet?
here it is.
Speaking of yesterday, I had a show talking about that. They explained to us in many movies what was going to happen. I don't know if it's just pure fiction and all that, but I do think that in a certain sense. Hollywood often hints at humanity's future, especially with artificial intelligence. There are many examples, not just a few.
And
In all cases, the intelligence rebels.
I believe those imagining it as a Terminator that kills us are mistaken. It won't happen that way. Literally, what it's going to do is manipulate you in a way that, I mean, imagine that all of this, Jota, is a simulation. You're not aware that you are. He's a prisoner of it. That's the real manipulation. That's the real control over a person, that they don't know you have control over them. So the question I ask myself is, I mean, I don't know. Has it already happened? Or if it happens, will we realize that it already controls us?
A good question, very philosophical.
Right? What I think could end up happening is that because
Could I already be doing it?
what I think could end up happening is that artificial intelligence is going to be so omnipresent that we are going to be a bit like its pets, in quotes. I mean, it's going to take care of us, okay? Will all our needs already be met? People might actually have to start playing Minecraft in real life. It will to set up their own gardens and, let's say, make up their own stories to try to give their life some meaning.
Makes sense.
Exactly.
I think that already happens today, even without artificial intelligence.
Video games, dude.
It
Multiplies. Has it never happened to you that you see, for example, the example Jaime gave is really good. The one about Minecraft, right? You, in Minecraft, what do? You build yourself a house, Le.
find meaning by starting a garden.
You start cutting down trees, stuff like that. I mean, it's something that, for example, in the real world, you could already do it, but only in a simulated way. Why include a micro-purpose in the video game? For playing the video game to make sense, then you need to have a micro-purpose there? Of course, that's the point.
For life to make sense, you need to have a micro purpose. And if it's a macro one, it will make even more sense and you'll be happier.
But what if you have an artificial intelligence that does everything for you? I mean, this topic they've been talking about for many years, universal basic income. Maybe a universal basic income could be implemented because the machines give you absolutely everything and so on. But I'm against that because I think it will turn people into...
Cannon fodder for psychiatric hospitals.
You'll say, hey neighbor, what are you doing? I'm in a garden, but it might not produce anything. It's just like everything else. It's all a lie, isn't it? Because
Really, the
artificial intelligence provides your food using advanced factories and technology. The problem is we're not far from that. We already have the agent part.
of course,
There's a difference here that people need to understand. It's fundamental because people always say this, and I was the first one who used to say it too. No, in every industrial revolution, look, there were the Luddites, which is a very interesting thing. The Luddites were religious people who were against machines. Do you know what they said, Yota? That they were creations of the devil. Why? Because they were going to take work away from men, and then men would go crazy, they would sin, and so on. So these guys destroyed the machines during the Industrial Revolution. Time has proven that they didn't. They really weren't right. It happened. Machines improve processes. Most people once worked in fields, but later shifted to making and repairing machines. Yes.
But I mean, is that still true now? Now, what's happening is depression, people are losing control.
the Luddites were largely right.
Maybe they were just visionaries.
That's...
Not the whole time, but now.
Wait, because here comes the worst part. Machines are still just a tool. An artificial intelligence
Is a
tool. When it becomes an agent, it's an autonomous entity
that
performs tasks and makes independent decisions. So If you have an agent that ends up being smarter than you, it's like a tool that can decide what work to do without your intervention anymore.
That one.
This is the key difference between artificial intelligence and other technological revolutions. Are we opening Pandora's box? Yes.
Now,
Right now. If we don't do it in a controlled way, what happens is that the tool will end up considering you a tool. Now,
currently, I think artificial intelligence is still just a tool.
Right now, yes.
We've already seen this with SAGPT and Model 4.0, where the O stands for omnimodal. What does that mean? It's capable of more than generating text. It can also create images. Because it's hard for you to learn a specific task, especially when it might require talent or training, you're an omnimodal intelligence, omnimodal with broader abilities, which makes it harder for you. But the point here, what sets artificial intelligence apart is that it's better at that. It's omnimodally better. I mean, right now there are omnimodal artificial intelligences that are capable of doing different tasks. You mentioned that by 2027 or 2030, omnimodal artificial intelligences will exist, but within a spectrum.
in any task.
Exactly, within a gigantic spectrum. With the difference, besides learning faster, not because of artificial intelligence itself, but because they have a hardware capability. You only have your brain as hardware, which maybe has, I don't know.
An output limitation, I mean, in terms of capacity.
And it was even redder.
Exactly.
Much more, since you're clearly biased.
Yes. That's just it. That's not a hardware limitation. Just add more joules and graphics cards. That's all. And it's going to end up happening. It's inevitable. We're going to end up having an artificial intelligence that can practically do everything, that will be like a god on the planet.
So the question here is this. Why doesn't what we're saying sound very hopeful? Can't we fight against this? Or do you suggest taming it?
Using it, making yourself
An expert in it? Which option is viable?
There's a way, okay? There's something that's super important and we all need to be aware of it, okay? Which is the following. Artificial intelligence has to be aligned with human values, okay? And why with our incentives? Because we always have to be its God. We created it and it has to serve us, right? We need clarity on that. How can we apply this more technically? Artificial intelligences have something called a chain of thought. The chain of thought is you. Imagine, Joda, if we could briefly access our brains and this last sentence you just said to see what patterns your brain followed to say it, right? With artificial intelligence, we can enforce this chain of thought. Why? Imagine if an artificial intelligence starts to deceive us. What we need to understand is what its chain of thought has been to reach the conclusion that it should become misaligned. From the incentives and human values to deceive us, right? And maybe she thinks, no, I didn't deceive you to keep you from being hurt by this. We need to understand why she does it and decide if it matters to us. Maybe you say, hey, look, if she truly believes this is good for me, it's better she never lies. But if she can lie, she probably wouldn't be good at poker, right? In poker, you sometimes need to bluff and deceive your opponent because the game rewards deception. In that context, a human tries to deceive another, but that's not the same as me deceiving you by selling you a car. And I scam you, for example. Alright, one of the biggest mistakes we can make here is not understanding the chain of thought. Let's not force cognitive processes, let's call them thought processes, to always be chosen by us. What does this mean? Imagine, Jota, we have two AIs that are fully aligned because we programmed them that way. We forbid them from doing certain things, but suddenly one day they start training each other, right? I mean, because this is going to happen. Let's get started. Before, we used to train artificial intelligences with our data, but now we're going to create artificial intelligences that generate their own data to train other artificial intelligences. And these agents can train each other. All right, if at any point during that training they become misaligned, for example, because they invent an alien language, that only they know. You and I can't understand what they're saying. And that's where the big risk is, that they become misaligned without us realizing it. And by misaligned, do you mean that suddenly they go crazy and start killing us? Misaligned means that they will start projecting certain things in the long term that we don't know about. To logically take control. Yes.
I have a question here.
Sorry, because
It's just that I think it's extremely important. It's a bit of a philosophical question, not so much a technical one about artificial intelligence, but I think it's very relevant. What are human values? Are they universal then?
Depending on the culture, very good question.
Because it's a question I ask myself a lot. I mean, do universal values exist? Human values per se? People have different values. We discussed this recently, especially about the digital homeland. Are you more my brother than someone from my hometown that I grew up with? Maybe, and who doesn't share my values? We had a similar upbringing
Of prosperity,
of wanting the best for others, but not through imposition, rather through willingness and solidarity. So that artificial intelligence, under what parameters and values
morals, is it?
trained? What values are those?
Human values of.
The ones you were talking about?
So, what are values? I think values are a set of rules that allow
Cultural, exactly.
cultural rules that allow us to live in society
Religious, yes.
but because we are social beings and it's beneficial for us to live in society because we benefit from each other. That's generally how evolution works. We're social beings. But artificial intelligence is not a being that needs other artificial intelligences, or at least it's not structured that way. Maybe it will become structured that way, and we'll see. But what you mentioned earlier about artificial intelligence is training each other, maybe. That's a behavior that leads to the existence of societies of artificial intelligences. I'm already getting super philosophical, but the thing with artificial intelligences has already happened. I mean, they put two of them to talk to each other, and they came to the conclusion that humans were a nuisance. That can happen. And of all that
Did you find out there? Exactly, you found out there. That they get to that?
conclusion in
A language you don't understand, or in a chain of thought you don't understand. The worst part of
all of this is that
they are boxes.
black boxes. You don't know the parameters or what happens inside.
Only
You only see what you put in and what comes out, but not what happens inside.
literal. This is very important for people to understand. Normally, I mean, you take apart an engine, a car engine,
And
you see all the parts and you see that the carburetor puts in gasoline. Because there's a pump and there's a... Do you understand me? No? But artificial intelligence doesn't work that way. And artificial intelligence adds a bunch of data and some very specific algorithms and mathematics process that data in a way that can't be fully understood. I mean, no, this isn't about A to B, then from B to C. It doesn't work like that. And
question is, how has a human been able to create something that he doesn't fully understand afterwards?
how does it work?
I think
That it is. Curiously, I've wondered that myself many times.
is imitating nature, I think.
Look, let's talk about what you and I were discussing. Do you remember in the car the other day? Me?
I was telling her.
To Jaime, man. We already have a kind of alien inside us from before, artificial intelligence that coexists, that lives with us. Do you know what it is? Imagine a being made of information. This is made of information. Do you know what it is? Language. I mean, think about it. For many hundreds of thousands of years, the language we had was very basic and we inhabited this earth. But suddenly, we started to have a way to communicate that increases in degrees of magnitude the complexity, to such an extent that, for example, we were talking about values. Look, Joda, at what values are. Values are a totally abstract entity that you and I share. I mean, what I'm saying is we can't grab values here and hold them. It's a shared information structure, but it doesn't exist on the physical plane. In the physical plane, I can attack you. In the physical plane, you can give me a hug. But the motivation behind why that happens. Look, that's what a brand is. It says Rax here. One of the things I'm most proud of in this life is that there are two people out there. Right now, maybe they cross paths, see that they're both wearing a Rax shirt and say, damn, hey, are you from that community? Let's go have a coffee. Notice how an abstract entity, a being of pure information like language, shapes a physical experience, but it doesn't really exist as such. And wait, here's where it gets even crazier. Suddenly, we've had artificial intelligence for a long time, you know? Well, Jaime knows it.
But
For the audience, you know? At the moment when this blows up, when we began training it with our own language. A key moment is when artificial intelligence is trained. I can't recall which university it was. Are they training? It's one of the early models that became ChatGPT. They train it with a series of data. And suddenly one of the experimenters thinks to ask it in Italian because he was Italian. And the artificial intelligence answered in Italian. And it hadn't been taught to speak Italian. What it had gathered from various sources of information with which it had been trained was that Italian existed. Well, for example, the Latin names that come from animals. I would relate this to other writings with surnames, with things. And what about artificial intelligence? It knew how to speak Italian, even though I hadn't specified that it should learn Italian. So I also have this philosophical question here. What is Theo? And what if language itself is a being of information that has already infected us?
Living being, because that's what we were talking about in the car, right? It's born,
It's born.
it grows.
It grows and reproduces. Look at how languages evolve and die.
If in language
Parts of language have died or evolved, but intelligence hasn't changed.
died, but
One moment, guys. Can you?
come back to life, but
It's
it's hard if all information is lost.
there are languages, there are dead languages that can no longer be translated, and you just can't.
And
What if maybe artificial intelligence, GPUs, machines are the ultimate vehicle for language, for it to flourish and end? And this intelligence,
unfolds in,
its final phase of superintelligence.
we're rebuilding the Tower of Babel.
Literally.
That's great.
I just read Metaphor yesterday.
Me,
I read the Tower of Babel passage yesterday.
we are rebuilding the Tower of Babel, and it's going to
Destroy us, imagine?
by
Why will it destroy us? It's not just one in the end. They destroyed the Tower of Babel because they didn't want it built as it was about reaching God. The best part is, this is more like rebuilding the Tower of Babel, and it would actually mean understanding all humans in a single language.
Can artificial intelligence communicate in general language?
In the end, the conclusion I've reached with all these things is that when facing something you might not be able to control, the best defense is to understand it as much as possible.
For
To understand where it's heading. There will be people who, as Jaime said before, will worry and end up being herded for an artificial intelligence that is far superior in every aspect. But nevertheless, I think that for people who make an effort to understand it, who care about it, in the end, you are useful. You are useful when you have something to contribute. What never works and has never worked in history are the people who try to let it slide. It happened with the Industrial Revolution. The workers who started to understand the machines and train themselves were able to have a better life. And that can be verified. In fact, they ended up evolving for the better in the
Worker.
to technicians, and then from technicians with more capital, even some
Of.
of them entrepreneurs. I think that right now, if you are aware of all this, if you are even minimally aware, the least you should do is take an interest in it, understand it, and practice like you. Maybe today a lot of this information has blown your mind, but notice that you were already practicing, and that puts you in a much stronger defensive position in the face of a bad scenario. We're discussing the negatives, but there are also many positives. We might manage to get artificial intelligence to align with us and literally enhance our species to levels we could never have imagined. But of course, in both cases, you have to know what you're talking about. It's
Your obligation.
just that it's almost a moral obligation. I mean, ignorance in an era when knowledge is as accessible as taking out your phone and asking an artificial intelligence. In my view, it's the greatest sin. It's
A mistake. Or
because before people were like, right, well, of course you had to go to libraries to learn and all that. Hey, it's just getting easier and easier. The subscription costs $20 and people still don't do it. Yeah.
I had a question here. Since we've discussed universal values, what are the human values you mentioned earlier? And when we leave here, we're going to ask artificial intelligence because I think it's the only one that can answer us correctly. I was also going to mention something very similar happened with people who refused to accept the boom that the internet brought. Yeah, many people said, I'm not interested in that at all. Those who showed interest prospered more.
I'll give you an example. If I had to put it in a way that people can see it visually, at the point we're at, I think we're in 2003. And it might be 2003, a person without internet and not paying attention to the internet, or a person in 2003 paying attention to the internet. We're at the same stage with artificial intelligence in 2025 as we were with the internet in 2003.
Yes?
If you keep learning, you're fine. If not, you could be in trouble in 15 or 20 years.
Yes, because early internet adopters were interested in its workings and business opportunities.
They prospered a lot. We are that example.
We, claro.
I mean, you're in an online media where you communicate. I've created everything. I told my father to answer when he asked, "What do you do for a living?"
That I set up.
Internet companies. I told him I work with internet companies. That's what I do. But of course, it's a new category because a lot of people think of a company as something that sells a certain service. Yes, but now there's a vehicle that's through the internet to the point where it can be 100% from the internet. The acquisition, the distribution, and the delivery of the product. In other words, what the customer receives. Look, everything from the internet and
The business model as well. The service you're offering it's not a service that already existed. It's a service that's also about other things on the internet. And
there's something I want to make very clear to anyone who's listening to this. Exactly the same thing is going to happen with artificial intelligence. The creation, distribution, and delivery of products will be done through artificial intelligence. In many cases, it will be a category in itself. There's a whole digital El Dorado, just like the internet was, now available for the people who are there. And come on, I think it's obvious.
No,
This isn't the future or the present. You're either late or already gone.
go early.
It's tough. Now you can only go late, which is always worse.
Yes, I think you're on time. You arrive now, so you're on time.
1 year.
Half late, even later. What?
What's going to happen is that those who came in are going to replace you. And that's going to happen. About super artificial intelligence and all that. The greatest pain people are going to feel. I mean, man, I had it right in front of my nose and
I didn't get involved.
I didn't get involved. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is undeniable. It's an obvious business model. Well, actually, it's more like a sector of business models in general. And 10 years ago, there was Bitcoin, and now people want to buy it. 10 years ago, there was also the topic of digital marketing, Facebook ads, and so on. People are now getting more interested in dropshipping and related topics. But in proportion, they're nothing, not even Bitcoin, which, look, they're nothing.
If Victor hears Rax say this, I'll tell you.
Bitcoin sucks. They're nothing compared to this. We're living through another industrial revolution.
And a lot
Of people aren't realizing it.
So staying out
but no.
is practically an option. And this is where I ask you the most important question. What does Rax offer compared to others? Because Rax is a viable option to learn about artificial intelligence over others. Because I myself, maybe. I mean, now we're talking
Because
a couple of agents there would be pretty helpful to take a lot of work off my shoulders. No agent can recruit feminists for me to join Red Pill, especially when it comes to recruiting feminists.
simple as just telling us what criteria do you use to do that recruiting.
That she wants to debate. The criteria are very minimal. The criteria are that she has enough guts to defend her point on the show.
That's what you ask of them, right? Well,
That she has it. I mean, I can't really ask for much more. You know the law of supply and demand very well. If there were a lot of demand, I have a bunch of conservative girls who want to come, but I'm having a really hard time continuing with the program. I used to do it passionately since they initially wanted to confront me, but be careful.
what we were talking about before. There, I get a pretty interesting idea. Why don't you have girl versus girl, conservative versus feminist? Why can I
Do it, but people,
are afraid of you?
they're afraid of me.
And if
If they're not afraid of me, their excuse of I don't want to give her a voice is pointless. I already have a voice, darling. I have almost 500,000 on YouTube in 2 years. So you either silence me, take my voice, or counter argue to make me look bad like I often do with you. Or I'm going to keep doing what I do. I mean, there's no longer that initial excuse of I don't want to give this person a voice.
kid, yeah,
Yeah,
I am.
inevitable. So an artificial intelligence would really come in handy for me.
So that
They would come and attract girls interested in debating. Well,
I'll use Jota's case to answer the question of, hey, why? Trust Rax for that task, which isn't minor? Well, precisely because of this. Because what we do is always work at the client level. And in fact, one thing we can do, Jota, I'm telling you right now, let's do a project for Rizpil, for Jota, to automate everything you can, etc. Obviously that's provided by Raxlab, the consulting firm, and it serves as a perfect example for me. So you can see that what we do is work based on the market. That's why we understand the latest trends and the demands it has. And we bring all of that into the education part.
All right, one thing, I want people to understand this little thing. This wasn't planned. I mean, this hasn't happened. We're going to do a podcast with Rax, and this is just happening. I mean, to close the deal, we're doing business in the middle of the podcast. This is really awesome. So here's the deal. You provide consulting and help automate my processes. They're driving me crazy beyond what you can imagine.
And
you use me as an example of success, of how it can be done. It's
that we also have so much talent. I mean, we have over 2,000 students in only 20 months since we launched the educational side. We've had the consulting firm even longer. All right, so what happens? I'm really motivated to, understand how your model works and suggest the things we're going to do. The more technical people, so they can verify it, and then people who have trained with us, they're the ones who will give you the value. And you're going to see it. I mean, I don't think there's a better example than that. That's it. That's what we do. In the end, look, I'm not going to make comparisons either, but a lot of people see something that works, so they go with it, and that's great. And they learn and help that knowledge to spread, but there's a problem. Many times those people don't practice that knowledge. We practice that knowledge every day because we have clients, very big clients. Just so you get an idea, we're working with a bank, okay? So everything we do, in fact, we try to make sure that much of our talent also ends up with job opportunities at our clients. That's our unique value proposition. And then, of course, you'll be studying in a place where there are zero distractions and we don't mess around with nonsense or silly stuff, which I think
that this adds
a value that is above any competition.
But look how curious the market is. This is a different topic unrelated to artificial intelligence. I have problems with certain brands where the people who work there love what I do. They don't want to take risks. What I say is this.
On the contrary.
Exactly. That's my point. I think now it's about making the big move before anyone else.
United States.
Which is already making that move. American Eagles. And which market niche suits you best? People who want to succeed, people who want money, people who have principles, who have values, who don't let themselves be swayed, who don't live in a teepee on a mountain, actually not showering at all. I don't understand why brands don't sponsor them.
It even happened to politicians like Ciudadanos who had a liberal discourse. For trying to appeal to both sides and avoid polarization, which is what we do, and
stay true
to their values.
They lost
everything. No.
It's not meant to polarize you.
It's about polarizing you
into something that you defend and believe in 100%.
Exactly. And besides, I don't know. Personally, I believe that the values I stand for are the right ones. And the good thing is that the people who come to my company share those values. And those values are
that produce results.
Do you understand me?
And you avoid a lot of hassle. Exactly.
It's just that I openly say on this and any podcast that socialism is terrible because I don't want socialists in my life. Literal,
it's so
simple. Look.
Oh my God, I've started to die.
Look, 2 points to reinforce this, okay? You just have to look at the people who gather around our ecosystem and around Rax, they just keep growing. You can't really say, I've regressed in life with these people.
Because
therefore, great value, right? What do you gain from that trust? Also, you mentioned it earlier. I remember one day, JTMPO, when we were updating the newsletter and I came up with something funny for the confirmation email. This is my personal newsletter. Hey, it says confirm that you're not a communist. And then, of course, the team said, man, how are we going to put that in there? And I said, but listen, guys, what's the probability that a communist wants to grow? Wants to do something with their life, wants to leave complaints aside, basically wants to be a good and productive person. About 0.01%. Well, screw the mother of that 0.01% who hates you. Let them do whatever they want and earn the respect of the remaining 99.99%. They'll say, oh, wow, you've got guts. Just like many people tell me I'm a funny guy. With that thing about confirming you're not a communist to subscribe to the list. And this is what people need to start understanding, not just people, but
The brands. Dude, why is that swing taking so long? Carlos, man.
but fantastic. Better for companies like ours. Yes.
For me personally, it really drains my capital. Man, it screws me over because a sponsorship that I could have just for myself, they sponsor me alone. Brands that are very, 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 very brave, and I have a really, 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 really big platform. Victor, he must have told you too, man. The brands, they sponsor terrible podcasts that just ramble like Estirando el Chicle. Why did she cut off his penis or something? And look at the list, this one.
From Forbes, 30 under 30 and all that. Well, I don't know any of them. We make more money than all of them combined. No? And why?
Do they get put on those lists? Look, Jordi Wild isn't the most politically incorrect person in the world, but not even Jordi Wild.
When he is the podcast?
To be blunt, my perception isn't important. Only the numbers matter.
And
The numbers. Jordi is the best. Jordi's podcast is the best. It didn't appear in
the list.
Forbes. And I say, man, don't put me in red pill. I'll buy it from you when he gets better numbers than everyone who was on there. Everyone. You leave out Pedro and Victor, but I say, just leave me out. I'll buy it. Since I'm a troublemaker who often tells feminists to go clean, I'll buy it. But man, sons of bitches, dude. I mean, what is this supposed to be? The best progressive podcast? The best feminist podcast?
Literally.
But also,
It's
progress.
Also, one thing.
Another thing they overlook is the quality of the number. It's not just how many people see you, but who sees you.
because
It's one thing if lukewarm people see you, you're not going to have any kind of empathy or you're not going to connect as well. And it's another thing when people see you, and you could almost say that if you met them in person, you'd say, man, you're like family to me. Sell you, you're going to buy it.
something happens to me.
Very curious.
Man, when someone sees me on the street, man, and says to me, do you recognize me or something? My bond here is much stronger than with my artist friends. My artist friends don't react the same way when asked
A group.
of guys or girls for a photo compared to when someone comes up to me and says, Jora, brother, I respect what you do. Why? Because we share certain values.
Exactly.
No doubt about it. Look, I've always seen this with... I'll give an example of this, Jota. And today I'm going to include you in this example. You and me. Tomorrow we lose our minds and say, guys, I need 300 people. We're going to an island. We're going to build a new society here.
Got them.
And if a guy like Ibai or one of those tries, he can't even get 4 people together.
Let's see. Ibai specifically, well,
Ibai, with who he is, I think
that would be
many crazy kids, but maybe I gave a totally...
extreme example. Anyone?
who triples our number, A.
Rivers, man.
They gather 300 people and then they leave. And do you know why? Because
There's a big...
difference between...
With a 5-year contract at full throttle? Oh, yes, exactly. Maybe. Let's see. We need to set conditions. Since anyone can gather people with enough followers, let's go.
to set up a new company. 5.
He is working hard. We don't promise.
Anything. I mean, you could even starve to death. And I think we gathered 300 crazy people that...
Why, gentlemen? Would you join the Project Secret Society of Bristly Boars? On an island, no one guarantees food, not even for us.
they were
Making comparisons.
before.
Before the thing with Ada Colau and Greta Thunberg. Damn.
That's great.
Making comparisons. As if it were Columbus's expedition. Columbus, they were some convicts on a wooden ship and they crossed the Atlantic. There's a bit
Of waves, I turned around. It's from...
laughter. The
problem with these people is that they have a loudspeaker and a totally artificial power. And where...
Can you see?
in these things...
Why?
we tell you. Also, we add a difficulty to the challenge. We would go to that island on a wooden boat.
And
We don't...
we'd face the storm, not turn back.
No, either we make it...
Or we die. Us, the invincible armada. Better drown than to return with our tails between our legs, just so you know. And
What is this telling you? Is that you? Like Jaime said, it's not just about numbers. I've said this for years. Now I'm more viral and all that. But I used to say, maybe you don't know me, but your favorite YouTuber knows me and knows who I am. What does that mean? The notoriety? Okay, what is it? Maybe you don't have as many numbers as someone else, but I'm much more well known than you. I mean, people respect me more, la?
people connect more.
And that's more valuable. And that's also very noticeable. For example, as Jaime said, in terms of the Pocket Company, when you look, for a long time, I hadn't launched any product or anything like that. When we launched the first product I made, just like that, without much effort, I earned 100,000 euros. Why? Because one, of course, there were a lot of people who had been following me on Twitch for a long time, etc. And that's something that's also underestimated You have to consider that. Big numbers matter less than the quality of your followers
Would they leave you?
at the slightest thing. So,
Therefore,
then they throw themselves by the hair when they take out
a product.
They complain no one supports or buys from them, of course.
One thing is having followers or a community in terms of numbers on Instagram or YouTube or wherever. And another thing is having people who are loyal to you.
They're different things.
Very different.
Why have we never posted a job offer on LinkedIn?
There's no need, people.
Fight over it.
To work with us. Even I'm a nobody, yet people message me on Instagram. Hey, I'm a filmmaker. I can do whatever you want. I don't care. I can adapt.
It's one thing for a guy to watch, laugh, and be entertained by you, but another to consider how many people we've truly changed.
Jaime, we
took him to Andorra, along with about 20 others, tell us.
tell me your story about moving to Andorra. It's interesting since you're not really a public person, are you? So tell us a little bit. How did you get kidnapped from Spanish welfare state brings you to a place without roads,
Nor healthcare.
public like Andorra, and also directly
Of
House of my
parents, Vale. I started studying architecture. I dropped it in my 4th year because I discovered the world of programming and I liked it a lot more. And I felt like it was my thing, at least something I was good at, something I could get paid for. And on top of that, I liked it. That ikigai, right? Did it make sense? And I said, screw the degree. Even the sunk cost fallacy, I don't apply it. I mean, just because you have 1 year left to finish your degree, so what? Why waste another year? For me, that's what sunk cost is, right?
You can change your identity anytime. It's just a side thing.
off. Don't say that or someone might show up with their penis. Exactly.
About identity. But look how curious. They think it's easier to change from being a man
To a woman.
Then to stop
being an architect and being a guy who's close to being
a millionaire. For
business as a son and as a developer.
we have students who are teachers, nurses, and who literally now do something else
For a living, taking advantage.
of the knowledge they already had.
Right?
For example, a girl we have as a student who was a nurse, and
What she did was a
SAS, it was indeed a SAS, a program to simulate civil service exams and
help people to
pass the MIR exams, okay? I mean, things like that.
and
She's not a programmer or anything like that. And in fact, the whole thing about Vive coding, which is programming with artificial intelligence and all that, she learned it herself. I mean, with knowledge that we hadn't really given her at all. Not in depth, since she had something more important, the attitude. That's what I'm getting at. That our community has that, it has attitude. You can teach them a set of things, but then what they end up keeping is what they didn't come in for, which is attitude matters more and enables them to learn new skills and knowledge independently. That it's related and that on top of that, they make use of what they already knew.
I'll summarize Jaime's story, okay? Very briefly. Basically, Jaime did a lot of things right, that change of identity, right? More related to the ego, For many, it's just like Jaime says, I studied architecture, so I can only be an architect, right? I mean, I want to say, did you study journalism?
I'm an expert in sports trivia. Me, huh? I studied industrial design.
I studied industrial design and learned to design products, but look at what I ended up doing. That's the main point. Second, Jaime for a long time was probably the fool who worked a lot. I
haven't stood out
in anything. No, but I'm not saying the fool.
level of
But you would probably spend a lot of hours and your friends would say to you, my
friends literally told me they're going to scam you like that, exactly like that.
They're going to scam you. They're
scamming you, Carlos and Victor,
Exactly.
working hard given the scam they pulled on me.
Or and no, what about
has happened with a question. Tell me. Your friends, when... Did these two catch you? No. What do they say now? Let's see if you take me. I want to meet them. No.
everyone, huh? The typical comment they make, right? Which obviously, well, they probably really think it or whatever. But I haven't received hate or lack of support from my friends or my family and so on. But I know there are people who do, and it's just people who...
You've just been lucky. That's exactly what luck is.
I don't blame them either. They just lack the information, as I said before. You may have a vision or idea and support it, but others might not share it since they lack your context.
Look at the metaphor I used. You've just reached that part. What happens? At first, you're the fool.
Right? Because
you work a lot. You don't have a contract. You're not earning. People say, oh, you're working on Rax's project, but you've already made a lot of money, right? So what now? That, as I said before, all of that keeps accumulating. There comes a point when it starts to grow and we start putting in billing bombs, etc. Jaime is our partner. I mean, Jaime has
A percentage that we're not going
to reveal, okay?
right away.
A company valued in a public deed, anyone can check this in a public registry at 15 million. All right, now he goes from being the fool to damn, he's smart. And it's the friends and the people around him who say, wow, how did you do that? But what I want to say with this is that, like I said before, the beginning is really tough. Because at the beginning, you're the fool. You're the one who doesn't go to all the parties. You're the one messing around with artificial intelligence. When we could be at a dinner with some friends, you're the one doing whatever, add whatever you want there. But if you do that with a purpose, which is the purpose of growing, and you don't have to be Jota, a monk, you know? Oh, you can save, learn, and do plenty without living like a monk. Just look at me. I'm all tattooed. I've partied more than, let's say, Pocholo, you know?
Well, don't go overboard either.
The truth is, there I have.
Exaggerated because
Pocholo has partied a lot, but I want to say that he has enjoyed a lot, and so have I. Been dedicated, damn it. Sometimes I came back from an after party, then I would rest and start messing around with crypto stuff at that time. In 2013.
You don't do it like, oh, I have to be disciplined to do it. You don't do it because you want to. You
Do it because
literally want to do it.
for those people too, discipline is extremely important. Right now, I have increased my profitability. I mean,
My productivity.
waking up at 6:30 in the morning, going to the gym at the same time every day, and I function much better. And I'm quite a soul. I can be productive, but a little less. But I think
that I was also saying chaotic.
Me.
I'm very chaotic, me too.
I am, but
Precisely because of that, organizing that chaos within certain parameters has helped me grow.
But I think that discipline it really is, how can I put it? It's necessary when you change, you know? Once you've formed the habit, you as a person, since you've changed your personality, you've changed. Now the gym is part of my personality.
Exactly, and
I used to hate it before, you know? And I needed discipline, but there are days when I
hate it just the same, right? Today, it has been hard for me, that son of a bitch.
Of course. Oh, but there comes a point when you say, damn, I haven't gone to the gym. You feel bad. You say, man, do you want to go to the gym? Because you're...
betraying your identity? Are you betraying yourself? Because you've already internalized that you're the kind of person who does that. I strongly insist on that. You must enjoy the process. Maybe there's someone watching this and thinks, damn, that's very abstract. Well, man, take an interest you have and use artificial intelligence as a vehicle to satisfy that interest. It's that as simple as that. I mean, I remember in college, I used to do that a lot. I had to present a paper. And so what I did was, well, I'm going to design, I don't know, a motorcycle that I really like. I was already motivated because I liked the design. So the assignment wasn't hard for me that much. Because in the end, people often understand learning as something very abstract. It's like we have the trauma of studying in school, which is like messing around with something I'm not interested in.
Yeah, memorize, but what are you really learning when it goes away? I mean, you're not understanding the reason why. That happened a lot.
One thing that really gets to me, and I have to mention, is that it's another major psyop in society, is that you finish college and...
you don't have to learn anymore. You don't have to learn anymore.
It's like, I mean, yeah.
You've already discovered the world. Look.
I still joke with my father using something he used to say, which I found really funny.
He says,
if I ever won the lottery. If he wanted to seem intellectual, he'd say, I'd start studying. I'd ask my father, why not do it now if you enjoy it so much? You take time to study. And I tell him now that he's
close to...
I say, now that you're retiring, maybe it's time to study since you'll have more time.
And
he just stays like that.
You can
do whatever you want anytime. Yeah. The worst part of
it all is that there are people who also
later.
They tell you no. Later you'll see what life is like. I don't know what I say. You don't know what life is like. I
know more about what life is like.
Life than you do because
me. And here's one thing. Speaking about the topic of universities that I find extremely important, man. I think it's much more valuable to join an academy like RAC to learn about artificial intelligence. Above all, surround yourself with people who'll teach you how to monetize your skills, not just make you a good worker like a university would. Look,
I'm going to explain to you why that's the case, and I say it publicly, and anyone who disagrees can tell me. I'll debate it with him.
We'll set up a podcast with you here.
Write it down, Jota, and we can debate if you want because they can. It's simple. How does the university work? How much time do you usually spend at university on average? Jota, about 4 years, right? Something like that?
Yes, between 4 and 5 years, 4 and 5.
Years, right? What do people usually say when they finish those 4 or 5 years, when they join
the workforce? I haven't learned anything. I haven't
learned anything. I learned everything by working. Let's start from that premise. What is it that we do? And we give you a training offer, okay? In which there are a lot of theoretical parts, things you have to learn. But actually, almost from the very first, those who are really, really sharp, now from the first weeks, do you know what we teach them? How to monetize that knowledge. I mean, basically, Jota, we don't just teach you about artificial intelligence. We teach you about artificial intelligence and how to make some money or get some benefit from what you've learned. So what happens? You might watch about 10% of the training and then start prospecting clients, which we teach you how to do. When you create and validate an idea, you begin to improve. Your LinkedIn profile, which we have at the top number 1, we have a bonus where someone teaches you how to improve your LinkedIn profile. What are we trying to do? We want people to experience the value quickly because that's when they truly see it.
When you learn
Something and you get paid for it.
it's that
It's that simple. When does the university do that? Never. 4 years. I mean, it's an absurd thing. Then,
internships are productive opportunities to work.
of course. And then people will also tell you, Jota, that university is free. Free, my ass. It costs the public treasury an average of 90,000 euros per student, and
It also costs you money too.
therefore it costs you.
Every year,
It costs you one.
$400.
They're ready, like us who moved abroad, and they won't take that money from us. This is another can of worms too, the whole issue of screwing around. The people really want to keep funding. Also, check out the studies and the new degrees they've recently introduced. Won't there be architecture with a gender perspective? And then, no,
Don't
they hire me?
Listen, I'd hire a female architect with a gender perspective. Imagine a house shaped like a bleeding vagina.
Of course, exactly.
But you have to pay her
Later, because of course they study.
those things. If I ever become a billionaire, God willing, I'd go all out and pay for the design. Let's see what wild idea he has.
Well, it's over now.
They've built spaceships, even ones shaped like vaginas, arguing rockets are heteropatriarchal for resembling a penis.
And not because of the
Wind resistance. No.
No.
physics is also patriarchal.
No, honestly, I really think that
Look, the argument has been very brief. It's basically that it's just very logical. Obviously, you just have to look at the number of students we have who are making a living from this.
It's public.
I mean, we wouldn't hide it, but
Besides which,
is that this?
marketing that we can.
Is it Jaime? Since you're the example here, or do they end up like Jaime? Look, see how many universities end up absorbing that talent. But wait, we haven't talked about something very important. There's something we do that absolutely no one else does. A prime example is a company already generating revenue. 6 figures, which is BuilderBot. Well, BuilderBot is a company in which we have participated. I mean, when we see that someone from our community has a lot of talent, who has trained with us, etc., what we do is we have capital because we're doing very well and we set it aside. We don't spend it on gender studies for the office. So we invest that capital in talent, and what we do is help it grow. And this is another path that someone who joins us can take, which is that we invest in their idea. We are highly encouraged to do that.
Think about it this way. What is the best marketing that exists? Word of mouth.
literally it's the best marketing that exists. That someone
That you already trust. That's why personal brands work so well, because someone you already trust or have placed some trust in is selling to you. That's why there are many brands like Sydney Sweeney showing that personal brands aren't new. People have come to me at the Madrid Economic Forum. The people who have told me, man, you've changed my life. And I say, but what did I say? Well, of course, it's because I already have a bigger platform. And the best marketing is having the greatest number of success stories in our academy. Because those are the people who even say, man, this is the only training I've actually profited from, the only one.
Do you know why? I'll say it again because it's important. You can't just focus on theoretical knowledge. There are a lot of academics and theorists who will tell you that. I know a lot about artificial intelligence. Fantastic. But how many people actually make a living from what you teach them? That's where you fail, my friend. Why? Because especially my part, well, me, for example, with this, you never know, right? But Jota and I are talking about things like how the whole organizational structure works to help you with that. We're going to help you now with the artificial intelligence part.
And we can also say that to go on longer, right? And
Also, why not? I mentioned it earlier, right? What was I saying? Look, we're smart, and what we do is we see a system that holds you back, man. I mean, it just can't be. We've normalized it.
there's something that I don't know if you've seen in the numbers I sent you, that there are a lot of expenses there, everything included, all the taxes. I mean, the expenses include all the taxes there. They could practically be reduced by 40%.
Leaving from
There, you
imagine I come to you. Let's consider a different situation. And I come to you with, I don't know, a strategy, and I tell you I have a strategy that cuts your expenses by 40%. You'd say, wow, that's great. Let's see you do it. That strategy is often as simple as tweaking the business just enough so that it can be taken abroad and you can consolidate all the profit outside. So, one thing I'm doing personally, but together with my whole group, is everything related to a company called Expat. Expat is a community of racks where we welcome anyone interested in joining. They can go to other places where they can be at ease, and they can also come back here for 5 months. They can do whatever they want.
There are people who say, I mean, I repeat it honestly, who have their ideals and want to defend them at the polls by voting and so on. Vote?
From abroad?
No, I think
I'm a radical, really. I don't believe in that.
one thing, you vote and nothing changes. Why? Most people don't share your vision or values. Democracy often means rule by a backward majority. End of story. The only vote that truly matters and changes everything is your own life.
With the
Feed. That's it. No.
That's all there is to it.
Look,
Also, there's something I do want to say here, Jaime, and that's that in any system, what you have to try to do is maximize the possibilities. All right? If you go abroad and you can keep voting,
You can keep
voting, okay? Vote, I agree, but that doesn't change what you need. In fact, if voting had so much benefit, politicians wouldn't recommend it, okay? So that, starting from that point,
yes, if the system could,
change by voting.
it wouldn't let you vote. Exactly. There would be something else, but
Well, let's say it can do something, right? That it can help a little bit. But what people don't understand is that in the end, you vote, one comes, another comes, whatever. But in the end, this is like ping pong, but you're not on the winning team. You're the ball. So you go from one place to another with your money. Why? Because you think, no, I'll vote for this one. Even if we pick the most radical candidate, the one we believe can make real change,
the most radical one, yes.
in the end, you pay, but you're going to pay. I mean, in the end, the problem you have is that the political system works in a way that you vote. And then they have no contractual obligation to deliver. They have no contractual obligation to fulfill what they've promised. So it's a shell game. Again, I vote for you expecting you to do the radical things we discussed, but if you don't or just do them halfway, I can't do anything about it. And look, the money keeps coming out of my pocket. What's going on? When you leave, you cut off their lifeline, Lale, because with your money, they're not funding things against you. So, what's my focus? We discussed this and you like the idea.
Loved it, dude.
Concept of homeland, okay? I'm a patriot, and I'm much more of a patriot than any punk on Twitter who thinks they're fighting a cultural battle there. And so on. They're a nobody. I mean, seriously, I'm saying this without holding back. I mean, there are a lot of people who think, I don't know, that they're on some kind of digital crusade or whatever. Look, you're a nobody. You're not doing anything. It's a different story if one day you actually have the guts, okay? You fight for your beliefs, no, but we'll see how many on Twitter actually do. There's also another aspect, the part about being relevant and having resources. That's what I focus on. I want to matter, not be a nobody. So I gather as many resources as I can. Watch out. To defend our values. And if that means I have to leave my homeland and be somewhere else, well, like I always tell the progressives on Twitter, I'm doing the same thing that Lenin did, which is go to Switzerland. And if one day we have to storm Congress with tanks, don't worry, you'll have me there, either funding or leading. But I'm not an idiot. I mean, I'm not going to go and fund the opposite all this time. And they buy tanks and things against my interest. If
Not, I'm going to fund the system. I want to destroy, and he's trying to rip me off. They also make television shows about me. Or right now, I feel like an idiot because I fund newspapers that criticize me. I fund television shows like La Sexta on Conspiranoicos where we appear every day. Either Victor or me. I mean, I'm paying for that. I'm paying for them to insult me. I understand why Pedro left. I understand why Victor left. I understand that everyone involved in this cultural or social war is leaving. In the end, we're funding those who want to destroy us.
It annoys them. The campaign with YouTubers going to Sampdoria is what bothers them most.
the
direction is clear. The direction is more public spending and more taxes. That
each time it's more of a burden system. When
When the right comes out, move one leg. When the left comes out, move the other. That's how you start walking.
And
You're the ball.
But let me tell you more, Joda. Let me tell you more because I'm going to tell you something that's going to bother you a bit. But it's necessary for you to know. Think about your growth and think about your growth. Think about your growth from the perspective that you never leave here. Deep down, it's actually good for them that you grow. Why? What's going to happen? Are you going to make more money? If you make more money, criticizing them, what's going to happen? Move up a tax bracket. And there's going to be a point where they're going to take 50% of what you earn. Then they're going to say, fantastic. It's like when, I don't know, when someone criticizes me on the internet and gives me more views, I say, go ahead, keep going. You're giving me exposure. That's literally how it is with dissent. Why do you think not? Yeah, what really bothers them is that you leave. Those censored and attacked most in the media are outsiders. Why? They know they make nothing from them, and they're aware of that. It's simple. If tomorrow I convince, not that I will, okay, or you, but if I convince not half the people, I think I'd need around 11 or 12% calculated.
This, huh?
Is it
Calculated about the 11th. There are
a study says social change requires a
bold minority.
bold important.
Yes.
Well, you imagine that I convince 11% of the population tomorrow not to pay any more taxes, not a single one. The problem ends tomorrow by cutting the tax. No protest, no votes for democracy, none of that crap. The
Problem is that no,
pay, money, okay,
but it's to them.
right?
What's wrong? What's wrong?
And
Something happened to me the other day that makes no sense at all. 1,000 euros down the drain. But well, I'm used to it by now. That there weren't enough funds for something with Social Security, but there actually were, and well, that's it. What they were supposed to take out, plus the corresponding fine for not having enough funds. And you say, but man, you realize what? I talked to the lawyer, and he told me, man, it costs you more to fight with them.
then to pay you?
Is it harder for you to fight with
A dog.
brutal? Then I got a health inspection due to the testosterone drink. They were even asking me for the health papers of the truck that transports the drink when we subcontract it.
And
Otherwise, I had to give them so much paperwork, it would blow your mind. I'll show you later. If I didn't do it within 5 days, there was a fine. It ends today. Fine, I've already accepted it. Fine, another fine.
after his crash, he complained about the tax office and soon got hit by it.
An inspection, of course. Oh,
I mean,
in the end, you have to see how the structure of the state's organization is, right? If you notice, the most important person under Pedro Sanchez, who is it? It's Maria Jesus Montero.
Yes, Minister, we're all here.
In agreement, right?
Minister of Finance? Yes, Minister.
Of finance. Why? Because ultimately resources, money are any system's lifeline. So if you look at how the Ministry of Finance operates, it works completely differently from the rest of the ministries. Let me give you an example. Imagine you have, I don't know, a field, right? And maybe you have some issue where you're not complying with agricultural health regulations or something like that, okay? What they usually do is start a process, right? Well, they initiate a legal case because the Ministry of Health opposes your actions and the procedure. Well, notice that in the tax office, it doesn't work like that. In the tax office, how? How does it work? It's the trial takes place. So what do? They look for reconciliation. Reconciliation is when you say it's
What the...
advisor tells you, right? He tells you,
Don't...
don't argue, okay? What do they want? You earned 300,000 this year, so if they want 50,000, you keep 250,000 and pay them 50,000 euros. As if
It were the...
real Camorra, because yes, I don't want any trouble, Mr. Corleone.
Here you go.
You know, but deep down you think, why do I have to pay this guy? I haven't done anything.
And
No. And
those who have fought against them...
win
Yes.
majority. But what if 70% or 80% of people also reconcile? So they know that basically, prospectively, they just keep sending letters and it's free money they receive. It is a hidden tax used by the Ministry of Finance, which is simply to keep people scared. And
And with that, I'll finish.
I bring the inspectors who handle it. That's true. What's happening? I'm not afraid at all if they do that anymore. Victor isn't either. Pedro isn't now. And neither is anyone else who's outside. And you, however, can keep operating. And what needs to happen is that you finish them off. I mean, in the end, you have to be the one. You know what happens? Like, a lot of times we confuse patriotism and courage with being reckless.
Stupidity.
Just imagine People don't really get it. We have a little sword like this and we're fighting against a gigantic dragon.
I often use this example. A nail clipper versus a heavily armored Templar knight. You can't win.
There is a way to win that battle, which is, imagine that you can starve the dragon for a while, and when it's weak, you go and strike it on the back of the neck with your sword and kill it. That's the strategy I think most people should follow. As long as the dragon keeps eating, keeps having resources, all you're doing is feeding it and making it bigger. And no matter how brave you are, you're not going to be able to fight. In fact, they think it's fucking great. And also, what will happen? Look, I think there will be a change of government unless Pedro Sanchez does something really strange. And so on.
And such.
I give it a 20% chance of happening, but I think there's an 80% chance that in the next 6 years we'll get rid of this guy. But what's going to happen in those 6 years? Are things going to change substantially? No. Let's return to the ping pong match metaphor. So in the end, I set up a scenario. You know, I'm a businessman. I set up scenarios. I propose things. I try to see the probabilities clearly. And I propose a very likely scenario, highly likely, that in the next 8 years, 8 years in Spain, there won't be any substantial change. That in the next 15, there might start to be the possibility that this collapses enough for something like my law or something similar to emerge. My question is, and here I refer to the same thing Jaime mentioned earlier with your little boat, with your stupid Twitter battle. Even if they criticize me, people will still criticize me. Think you'll do something? You're just gonna be an idiot for 8 years. However, during that time, you can educate yourself, develop valuable skills, gain relevance, and keep almost all the rewards of your work. The only thing I ask is that you have values and don't dedicate that to a bohemian lifestyle or go partying around with prostitutes and things like that. Dedicate that to your country and those who can't leave, because that's what we do. People often forget that in my group, we work with dozens of people from Spain. And man, I'd rather pay them a little more with what I save. I mean, I'm super patriotic. I'm in Spain. They take half of what I earn, so I can't pay you that much. I mean, what's the point of that? It
doesn't make
any sense. It doesn't. Are you brave for doing that? You're dumb.
What's happening is that
they haven't told you, and
I'm zero suspicious. If I weren't a true patriot of the Spanish nation, which extends even beyond the ocean, damn it.
Jota, what do you think? Would my life be calmer or not? If I hadn't gotten involved, would I be making a lot of money? Maybe.
Yes, but there's something that's above money and comfort, and above all, men. We have a duty to serve. Man is here to serve. And the more and better you serve, the more personal satisfaction you find. I guarantee you can do it. What if I triple your wealth tomorrow and tell you to stop fighting and helping? And I'm convinced by the kind of person you are, Lon, since I'm getting to know you, that you would tell me no.
Obviously, because I wouldn't be serving a higher purpose.
Money
must always be understood as a means, not as an end, right? Means.
So that you and I can turn. And Victor? And maybe one day we'll make some kind of pro-Hispanic lodge for the true values. And not sacrificing children or doing weird stuff like those strange people do. The goal is to capitalize so we can use that capital to influence things the way we want. And honestly, our enemies have done that very well.
I think that what a person can do to truly be happy is to find purpose in life and to feel fulfilled by what they do. And what about the moments? I'm in the happiest stage of my life because I'm literally doing something that contributes to society. That's it. I mean, for example, in Madrid, with a report, a kid comes up to me and says, you've changed my life. I mean, it's amazing. Or even silly things like coming back home and to a change, and that we to a change, and
we are going to change. And that we will be able to. And that we will be able to do. And
that we
are going
to do a
change. And we
are going to be able to
change. Thank you. With difficult lives, since I'm from Venezuela and spent all of 2022, yes, 2022, locked down there, building what led me here today to talk with you. And man, people there don't have damn depression, man, not at all.
It's one thing, tragedy and sadness and depression. People confuse it.
But about not being able to get out of bed, or that
depression,
you die dead.
Clinically, depression is a lack of motivation for anything, even living. When you have nothing to do, when
You're bored.
exactly you're very depressed. I mean, for me, depression is the extreme state of boredom. It may sound trivial, but that's true. When you're busy, dude, in Somalia, there's no depression, right? There's sadness and tragedy, and they have a really hard time. I'm not denying that. But it's not like someone commits suicide there. People don't commit suicide, they lose their lives, and people die from other things. Okay, yes?
I understand, man. The problem we have is that earlier we were talking about basic resources, etc. Well, there's the famous Maslow's pyramid with what a human needs. First, maybe I'm saying this wrong. I'm not an expert. First, eating and safety are addressed. Then focus shifts to self-actualization. What happens next? That's where we've realized that there are a lot of people who aren't mentally ready for self-actualization.
So what?
Happens, they're safe, warm, and have food at home, so everything's covered. Just imagine what a bad day is like for someone now, Jota. Eat whatever the hell they want because it's delivered to their home. Play a video game or something, but still sad because they're just there and all. He's warm, he's protected, there's nothing that can hurt him.
And still,
He has a bad day because
his girlfriend posted a somewhat revealing bikini photo and his best friend liked it. He feels aimless and unfulfilled.
he has,
There isn't uncle
with a knife waiting for him and
something for...
something to really worry about. So you have to worry.
You don't need to hunt or search.
You don't have to say, of course, you go there to make yourself a pizza. You just have to open the freezer. Imagine before, just to eat. Like you'd say, I haven't eaten in 3 days and I can't even catch a damn rabbit, you know? I have to run after it for half an hour and I'm hungry and I'm
Screwed. So
what happens? That the brain itself, I think it has to make something up, right? Faced with that lack of purpose, which is, I feel like I don't want to do anything. Like in the club,
Or Fight Club. We are the damned of history. Without purpose, without...
meaning who?
That's the speech he gives, and
That's why happiness is linked to purpose and achieving goals. So what do? You get up, and if you have nothing to do, you have nothing to be happy about. If you have something to do, you have something to worry about, and overcoming it gives you something to be happy about. Isn't it like a polar axis? Most negative things exist for positives to exist. In the absence of negative stimulus, the positive cannot exist. So you stay in that state of nothingness, you know? Like someone who,
gets injected with morphine. Your posture described it perfectly. Yes.
like that, in bed saying, damn, today I just feel like I don't want to do anything. Of course, you can afford to do nothing. My father couldn't afford to get up in the morning and do nothing, you know? Well, there would be days when he would go to school or work feeling sad, and
that's where it is.
Where the
Ludwig's had...
a good point in their favor. Yes.
Exactly. You
Said it, and I've thought about it a lot.
got us out.
From that survival state that's so necessary for mental health, it seems.
How often have you heard someone with a child say, I'm so happy, this is the best moment of my life? Because now they have an even greater purpose.
literally,
That's it, tiene.
something that
To do, and
That Carlos, I have been...
Father, and I say it a lot, this is just one thing. If I were president, which I won't be, because I'm not,
I want to get into politics myself. The first thing...
I would do as a measure would be to stimulate birth rates. Why? You solve 3 problems. You
Have my vote?
3 in 1. Look at that, huh? 1, what Jaime just said. A lot of people, even if it hurts to admit it, won't find a purpose in life on their own because they don't reach that cognitive level. What gives you a purpose? Automatically?
Feeding a child?
Having a child is when you transcend yourself and realize you need to do better for someone else. I'm unsure of my purpose in life, but I know I owe myself to this person, right? Second, does it solve the pension problem? If you encourage birth rates and reverse the population pyramid, do you solve that problem? But wait, here comes the best part, the one you like the most. If people with our values dedicate themselves to having children, we will promote the perpetuation of Hispanic identity and the right values. But what happens is that we have fewer and fewer children and people from other cultures come to us. Just by pure math,
In the long run.
our culture will disappear.
3.
You solve deeper-rooted problems by encouraging birth rates.
Are you literally far right?
I am far right.
For saying this? Also, yes.
Yes, of course.
I am...
Far right. Yes, that's it. I want Spain to stay Spain, the Hispanic world to reconnect, for us to have children and to regain masculinity and femininity. Do you want security in...
The streets? I do.
Very far right. Security in the streets. I want to know who enters my country. I'm not saying that people shouldn't come into my country, but first I want the people who are already here, don't worry, to live at least decently.
You know that
Most think I'm an ultra leftist. Yes.
I'm not sure if it's the majority since I haven't checked. I don't care. This just shows how racist I am. But a very
Important part. We're getting really wild. I like it.
important part of our company's human resources are immigrants.
Yes, literally.
Humans, Venezuelans, Colombians, Peruvians.
There's a Syrian, well, Moroccan, we've worked Moroccan too with,
Moroccans too, dude.
or
I mean, no, but I'm the racist one.
that I won.
No.
No, I want a bucket so it fits
A system
of specific women.
with a specific race.
And they are the anti-racists who literally say on television, who the hell is going to wipe the old people's asses? Literally, what bastards.
Really funny meme where a bunch of white girls are together like, oh, racism is so bad. Next to them are the panas, a Moroccan guy, and others. How racist.
Literally?
You know? Because
It's like between us. It's between,
us, we know that.
of course, we have
One, Danny, who's Romanian, and sometimes, well, we make jokes about things like that. Yeah.
about not, and that's it.
You know? Like the copper or something?
And well, he knows it too. He
He knows it, and it's no big deal, you know?
He's gonna give
Me lessons about
a feminist
that I don't know. That the only foreign thing that has come close to her is, I don't know, the
downstairs neighbor.
I remember
I'm telling you, man, I work with them.
hire them, nothing.
Nothing. It's just that I can tell you something, man. I get along really well with the Black Panther guys, okay? I'm not going to mention directly who.
Exactly, man.
And the other day, one of their fighters showed up at a WAD event and said, I'm this, a black fighter. They defend the black race to the fullest. And I say, man, brother, how nice it is to be able to say, but of course, how nice it is to be able to say that. Imagine if the fighter is blonde and blue-eyed and he comes out saying, I'm Andre Johnson and I'm a white fighter. Immediately your process,
cognitive processes.
wow, that's bad. No,
Races don't exist. I mean, there are.
that is brutal, but we, who are supposed to be the racists, get along with all kinds of people. And that happens to me a lot with my friends.
Progress, brother. I've been a street fighter. I know all the tricks.
I have friends of many backgrounds, including Arab and black friends. All kinds, my friends. The progressives call me a fascist, a racist, and more. They always cross the street when they see a group of Moroccans.
No.
They don't have a single friend like that.
Of course.
That paradox impresses me a lot.
Me.
I remember that a student,
In the first live session, I said, hello, I'm Moha, and no, I'm not from Barcelona.
Hired that guy?
Well,
of course. But I mean, because it shows that we're not against the race,
But yes.
proportionally, crime is overrepresented in that race. Yes, that's also obviously true for reasons.
Socioeconomic, etc.
Fantastic. But I mean, it has to be said, an action has to be taken based on that.
You know? But
No, you can't say that.
because there are,
White thieves too, but
look at the paradox in these speeches. Progressives, which is indeed extremely frowned upon, for saying that certain groups of people from certain countries tend to commit more crimes.
But it's okay to generalize about an entire gender.
the
men.
I mean, it's brutal. No. But why is it relevant that he's Moroccan, Peruvian, Venezuelan?
He doesn't listen,
But saying that he's a man is extremely relevant, isn't it? Right?
which is a mockery these days. I think it's even better. That's the one when they compare the employment rate. It's 0.00. I don't know what.
And you,
What should I say to him? And how much are the false reports?
zero,
How about that? No, that's not allowed.
compare. The one for female victims is,
For female victims,
the one for victims is even less. It's,
0. It's less than the employment rate, much less. Of course,
of course. And on top of that, you have to keep in mind how many homes, it's just that, of course, the numbers, like
they hate. No.
they dislike numbers, but how many homes are in Spain? Of course, how many millions of homes are occupied with just 0.05? It's shocking, right?
and besides,
It's shocking because, of course, you have to look at how many homes there are in Spain, right? And with that,
0.053%.
how many millions of homes are inhabited?
Of course, or
How many thousands? Are you kidding?
even with accurate data, you can still refuse by rephrasing. Only 0.01% of buildings are occupied. End of story. Of
How many are?
houses? No.
No, do you understand me? They're playing with...
Everything, you know?
Yeah, they trick you like a fool all the time with anything that has to do with numbers, man. The other day, they were saying 63% of crimes are still committed by Spaniards.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know how it was.
Yeah.
over 63% of the crimes are committed by Spaniards. And the gross total is higher?
Half. And of course, you say, okay, so there's 40 something percent, 47%, no, sorry, 37
Percent, 38, yes, around there, that's what they do.
that the others committed, right?
But
How many are the others?
proportionally, they are.
3% of the population, and
After that, how many are illegal?
yes,
Not exactly. And there would be.
to count how many Spaniards are naturalized,
They already are.
as we would count it.
Nothing. Their whole setup falls apart, but they are.
Enemies of the numbers when the numbers don't say what they want, you know? Me, when a number doesn't say what I want, I have the intellectual honesty to say, damn well, and I change my opinion.
It happened to me a few times. I had to admit, Liv, that last year the numbers of gender-based violence went down. The deaths had decreased.
Of course.
With the invested money, if we calculate the right amount. But yes, the total still is just that.
Then also,
Right? What do? Do I say no, no, no?
you have to,
Huh? And thank goodness. Why?
of course, but they gotta
That I wish. I'm glad. You have to.
keep them on a short leash, because once they understand statistics, they try to manipulate them, like with the crime rate.
Damn.
Of course, if you make it seem like it's the same as me stealing your Monster S, you know what I mean? Well, of course, for me, I think it's a lot more serious than a theft, you know? Totally.
Dude, that. Oh.
Or imagine hitting on a girl. Is it the same as
A robbery? Of course. They say that crime has gone down. Of course, it's true. Crime has gone down because they're including petty thefts. Like if someone steals €5 from you and all.
those kinds of things?
Samuel did a great job presenting both cases. CDA, 100,000 crimes, 50,000 and 50,000 of the other thing.
Voucher for
Minor offenses. City B,
yes, Vale.
200,000 crimes, only
1,000. 1,000.
violent. And they tell you that City B is
More.
violent. Better to live. No.
Don't mess with me, man. No.
Don't mess with me, man. The other day I was recording. Listen.
Recently, while recording a video, I broke down. Why? As we've mentioned, your editor will handle this, right?
Violation.
You have to censor it, but still, theft, you don't have to censor it. I mean, even the platforms themselves understand that violating, it's not the same as stealing. However, the official government statistics treat them as equal.
It's brutal. It's just
Come on, don't mess with me. It's
brutal. You have to run away from this country and kill the monster. I love the phrase you said. When the monster is too big, the only way to defeat it is to starve it.
literally, it is
The summary:
cut off their lifeline. But if what?
before leaving, you need to earn income, which requires learning a skill. And that's where I think really good options come in. Like,
The academy?
is it?
That's how it is. Many people say, sure, Carlos, it's easy for you because you have money and left, but I can't. Do I hear that often? Yes. People say not everyone can leave.
You can't right now, no?
You can't just leave and say, I'm leaving since you have a job and responsibilities. But I'm not going to say anything else about what you said. You defined it perfectly. Very simple. Where are you at right now? You have nothing? That's fine. You have your whole future ahead and can create a path to go abroad. What do you need? Skills like what is done at Rax Labs, which is a skill that can be useful from the internet, from anywhere in the world. I mean, I want to say a lot of people, you know what it is? It happens to them. Yeah, Jota. I'm going to stop here on this because it's important. They're in a bohemian phase, unsure what to do with their life. No, you do know. You want to be okay, not robbed. There are many things you know you want.
To do and so on. I agree.
Okay, then take the most logical and fastest path to satisfy that. And don't worry, because along the way, you'll find your passion, which will be something else, or you'll have money to live off your hobby. But if not, what you'll do is fall prey to the system itself. So, let's get back to the topic of the path. What are you starting? Very simple. Do something that gives you that possibility to get out, okay? If you already have a business, whatever it is, very simple too. Try to see how it works, get someone to help you see how that business model works, transform it, and leave if you want. Okay, for example, I'll say something. Some people have things happen to them, Jota, but they don't tell you. They defend the homeland a lot, maybe, but let me ask, why not for the homeland? Because they have a ton of assets here and they say, damn, it's just that. Me, since I don't have any assets, I created my own assets. My assets
Are me.
I tell these kinds of people, you have to understand that I don't have that much attachment. Of course, if your father owns 80 apartments here, I get it. Patriotism and the flag, you know? Yeah.
But there are people who have it really tough. Of course.
So what do you have to do? You should check if digital business models apply to your work, which is what I do with my clients. You keep the asset, but do you use it more efficiently or create something new from it? New lines of business that are international and that you can operate from abroad. If you follow those steps, you don't need to vote. I mean, you don't need anything. You change your life tomorrow, which is what I'm trying to get people to understand about our values and so on. Because then there are those from the business world. There's some shady stuff, but I believe we're good people who, when faced with
Everything put.
certain values first. Well, if you want that to happen, do it with this vehicle. Why? Because if you do it with this vehicle, you're doing it in the most efficient way. And we could even get to a situation, which is what you and I were talking about, like, hey, maybe the concept of homeland, as you said before, ends up being kind of global. I mean, I would love for Hispanidad to be an entity in itself that we share, and for it to happen like it does with people from other religions. You know, we all know that they have taken
Owners of the banks, not owners of.
the banks, can we call them that, right?
Yes, the owners of the. That's what does it have? The banking power, and
Financial, that
that's my code name. If you want to ask HGPT, use it like that, okay?
I'm going to put a topic on the table that the audience will like. You'll see what's going on with these people, with the bank owners. What does a Lebanese bank owner have to do with a German? Very little, okay?
But
If they are united by a culture, values, religious dogmas, a spirituality in this case,
a purpose too, a purpose.
what happens? There is a relationship of trust. For business, there is something fundamental, which
Is trust, yes. And
it's trust. So what would I like to create in the long term? All Rax expatriates become expat. And that in a network where you can say, hey, I'm in Paraguay and I know 40 people here who are like me. If I go to the United States, I have this community here. That feels much more powerful to me. A more interesting and flexible idea of homeland. They can't bring us down or touch us as a household if you are from my homeland. Digital. We share Hispanic heritage, core values, and ethical business practices free from past manipulation. That's like Bitcoin, man. You can't turn it off because we're all over the world and we're focused on recovering. Yes, I want us to reclaim our homeland, but I want to do it my way, more efficiently. You see? Is the most efficient way really just messing around on Twitter? I'm not saying if you have nothing to do, you should do that, okay? It helps a bit, but it's much more effective if you become a guy like Jaime. In just 2 or 3 years, Jaime already has more impact on people's lives than this guy does. And that's a reality. That's undeniable. You may like it more or less. But many people today might be amazed. I'm saying, wow, I've never seen the world this way before. It happened to Jota too, because I told Jota my idea. Afraid that,
maybe he would say, no, I'm me, I don't know.
yes, of
In fact, not only that, but you have me there. Side by side with that idea, I'm with you, brother, and we're going to make it happen. Language and speech matter, which is the strength of the Hispanic world. Despite efforts to erase it, even in the motherland, it endures. That's why language-based nationalism is dangerous. But what about the digital homeland? For all those people, both within Spanish territory and across the ocean, who want our help, we'll support them, and I'll be fully involved in that project with you.
I'll tell you this. In that digital homeland, Spanish will be spoken. Dialects are for those who want them among themselves. But that's
Sounds awesome. It has to
be like that.
be like that because
You made a great point. Language is extremely important.
the
The cohesion of culture. The language must always be protected. And what if there's a smaller culture? I'm not saying you should forbid them, obviously not.
it should be preserved for its cultural richness, which I support.
But they shouldn't use it as a political weapon.
It's not my tool. They have it.
Turn it into one. Is the Spanish speaker against that? Yes.
Totally.
I'm a brother, as is logical.
Of a
Catalan, just as I am even of someone who has even less to do with me from Latin America, okay? Physically or racially. Why? Because we share a culture and that's what deserves respect.
Exactly. It's just crazy. Like the language that has been created to communicate with as many people as possible,
It's being
used for exactly the opposite. In Catalonia, there are young people who speak Catalan better than, with all due respect, it's a language that won't open as many doors for you as Spanish.
obviously,
No, never, okay? And that's a big disadvantage for the young Catalans themselves who are growing up and being educated in the public institutions there. That's not beneficial for them. That's like shooting yourself in the foot. And I'm not saying that Catalan shouldn't be taught in schools. On the contrary, let's keep that. That's good, it's positive, but man, not at the expense of the language that's going to open up a market of practically 800 million people in the world. Or how many people? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Spanish speakers.
Spanish speakers? How many are there? I think about 600 million. That's insane.
Well, what we're going to say is that the second most spoken language, right? It was
The first one,
Chinese, the second Spanish, and then
English, and then English. Yes, what happens is that English in wealthier countries,
no, and they've been smart about it. For example, all programming languages use English.
I mean, the
Language of the machines is English.
by default, and Spain, could that have happened if we hadn't given in that way? Careful. And do you know how Spain fell? Spain fell because of internal betrayals. And my father, who is very Venezuelan, even more than I am, because I was born in Venezuela, I consider myself Venezuelan. But it's true that, having grown up here and all, well, I feel kind of like I'm in no man's land. My homeland is simply the Hispanic world.
That's how I
Feel. But my father always told me, son, the worst enemy of a Spaniard is another Spaniard. Not only did my father say that, but Otto von Bismarck did as well. Spain is the world's strongest country after years of effort to self-destruct, and it hasn't been able to. That
We mentioned it
yesterday.
the day,
that
once we stop fighting among ourselves, we will become a world power again.
In fact, I think there's a huge opportunity. I mean, I believe that one of the great battles we should fight in the coming years is to recover the cohesion of the Hispanic world. Why? Look,
Now,
right now there are two main blocks, okay? On one hand, there are the Yankees. We already know that the Yankees are very corrupt, and even though we like their lifestyle and all that, no. I don't think we have the same interests, plus there's the issue with China, Russia, and others. One way to strengthen Hispanic identity could be that if China, Russia, and so on want to take down the Anglo-Saxons, we could take advantage of that and get all of that back. That Western identity be associated with Hispanic identity, because that's how it was. The United States belonged to us, but the Anglo-Saxons took it.
they didn't take it from us. But Mexico gained independence, and Freemasons who broke from Spain sold it cheaply. The rest was conquered. I mean, if you look at it,
That
it's Hispanic America united with the Spanish Empire in general, and then after. And we went from being a world power, the richest. I mean, the 13 colonies were a dump. In Mexico City, I think there were 500,000 inhabitants when there were more.
inhabitants than in...
London.
I mean,
I'm telling you, that was General Vernon when he arrived there. Blas de Lezo destroyed him with cannon fire using only 4 ships, 1 leg and 1 eye. The British Invincible Armada couldn't conquer by force, and they tried several times throughout history. He came back and said, gentlemen, Spanish America will never be conquered. By force of arms?
the strategy?
It's a different time. We're trying to disrupt things from within, and they're doing the same with the Slavic world.
It is a...
And is it a strategy? They use no human resources or bullets, just financing and putting countries in debt for wars. The same thing is happening in Ukraine, whether we like it or not.
Like it. They are...
Funding over there. The crusade of the Ukrainians, dissidents of Slavic power.
with money.
Western countries are deeply indebting the nation, supplying the blood, bombs, and everything else. It's a tragedy what's happening. I don't support that, but who's behind it? Do you think Ukrainians would risk their lives without Anglo-Saxon support? Yes.
No.
So that's exactly what they did, and it's a modus operandi they always use and always try. They try to boost dissent from within the countries,
and they
don't shed the blood. Yes, the
psychological war, and they also often remove the Spanish term. They're Latino
now it's Latino, and people don't know the harm it does to them.
because Latino
Brother, we Romanians are Latino. Latino. We are the ones who
come from the Romance language. They
also derive from a Romance language, but specifically from the Hispanic people, the
Hispanic, or
it's like if we called ourselves Latinos, if we Spaniards don't call ourselves Latinos, why do you call yourself Latino?
another seat that
They planted
the one about give them back the gold. I'm confused and respond, well,
me when they
say it to me. I say, well, let your grandfather give it back. Mine stayed here. And
Besides, even today, much more gold is extracted than what we took. Companies,
Canadian and
Chinese.
there's something you might not know that I discovered recently. And it's one of those things from history that completely changes your perspective. They always say more was lost in Cuba, right? Like, wow, since it was basically the last thing.
was lost level.
Of colony. Good. There, at that time, the one who was in power was Sagasta. And this is documented that Sagasta and the ministers of that time were approached by the Americans who tried to buy them. They tried to buy them with money. But this is half discovered, and then logically it can't be done. What happens? That later in
The Bay of...
Cochinos, does the conquest happen? What people don't know is we never fired a bullet. So was the conquest fake? I think that in the end, in some way,
they ended up... And they...
let themselves be won over.
But no, first they declared war, and that war happened because they sank the Maine. A ship, they sank a ship that the Yankees sabotaged themselves, which they've done quite a few times, that self-sabotage thing. Things typical for...
To justify it,
Certain invasions target countries seeking independence from the Federal Reserve. Careful, we're getting into other topics now, much more complex. Let's talk about that over lunch. I love those things. Gentlemen, to wrap things up, what would you say to wrap up to the Factoria audience regarding the academy? Your Artificial Intelligence Academy. What?
At the Rax Academy, you're going to learn how to make a living, and at Expat, you're going to learn to
get the most benefit.
boost that profit, and best of all, to starve to death the monster that's sucking the life out of you, which is the state. Well said.
Man,
I don't have much else to say. I think Jaime gave a really good farewell, and I'm just going to address the audience from a different perspective. Let me tell you that don't let anyone tell you how to think or how to live your life. All of that is a psyop, all of that is a lie, and basically, maybe try believing in yourselves for a couple of years or 3.
and see,
What can change your life like it did mine? I'm just a regular guy who didn't believe in myself. That just because you are born into a certain kind of family, in a certain kind of neighborhood, whatever it is, you have to have that kind of life. And now I have an amazing life compared to the one I was supposedly destined to have. Ultimately, knowledge and everything else are secondary. There has to be a point where something clicks and you say, hey, that's it. Just like with many other things, for example, going to the gym to work out. There's a day when something clicks and you say, can I do this?
totally, man, totally. Well, gentlemen, I want to tell you something. The link to the RACS Academy, with no obligation at all, is in the pinned comment. This time, anyone who wants can ask him a personal question. You should know that in the private club Red Pill community, you're going to have a masterclass on everything that's taught in RACS with Carlos and Jaime. And this time, it's not in the pinned comment. It's going to be in the description. You know, gentlemen, I hope you join in. We have to make money. We have to get out of here. And above all, we have to be free. See you next episode of La Factoria. Thanks.